To violent protests over immigration raids.
You got to remember, we have the Olympics coming, and we don't want people looking at Los Angeles like it would have been. It would have been bad. Last night, they had total control.
California is suing over the National Guard deployment. The U.S. Defense Chief also facing questions on the L.A. response during a House hearing.
Subcommittee ranking member Betty McCollum got frustrated with Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth over how much it costs to send the Marines to Los Angeles.
And we believe ICE agents should be allowed to be safe in doing their operations. And we have deployed National Guard and the Marines to protect them.
Democratic Congressman Pete Aguilar asked about photos of troops sleeping on the floor and accused DOD of failing to provide food and water to them.
And that's a disingenuous attack that misrepresents how much we care about our troops and what they're doing to defend ICE agents. I'm not going to take the fact that we don't care about the troops. Nobody cares more about the troops at the top than this secretary and the chairman and our department.
Staff with Hegseth later clarified it was costing $134 million for a 60-day deployment.
Fox's Jessica Rosenthal. Hegseth has 3 scheduled hearings this week, the first chance for lawmakers to question him since his confirmation. President Trump's comments coming during an Oval Office event on forest management ahead of wildfire season. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem also highlighting hurricane season preps, though the president still wants an end to FEMA as it is now.
Over the next couple of months, we'll be working on reforms and what FEMA will look like in the future as a different agency.
But she's emphasizing that there will still be federal funding to help with emergency response. America is listening to Fox News.
The doctor's office that accidentally mixed up your files has your social security number. The power company that mistakenly cut your service has your payment info. And the hotel that lost your reservation has your passport number. You need LifeLock because your personal info is in endless places that can expose you to identity thieves. LifeLock monitors hundreds of millions of data points every second. If your identity is stolen, we'll fix it, guaranteed or your money back. Save up to 40% with promo code NEWS at LifeLock.com. Terms apply.
Hello, I'm Joe Cordell, founder of Cordell & Cordell. Divorce is complicated, especially when your small business or professional practice is involved. At Cordell & Cordell, we understand that these assets raise unique valuation and allocation issues. For 35 years, we've helped doctors, lawyers, and small business owners navigate divorce with confidence. Call Cordell & Cordell today because your business is more than a job, it's your legacy.
The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely upon advertisements. 600 Kelwood, St. Louis. CordellCordell.com.
Air Comfort Service, heating, cooling, and insulation. Weather.
Chief Meteorologist Dave Murray.
The dry pattern continues. Delightful going through our Tuesday afternoon. Sunshine and 83 for the high. We will take it. Clear skies. Fantastic evening again. 62 for the overnight low. Wednesday sunny. Warm it up to 89 degrees. We still have not hit 90 plus this year. May have a shot at it on Wednesday. Thursday mostly sunny. 87. This is 97.1 FM Talk. Chief Meteorologist Dave Murray.
If it's time to put the deck on your home of your dreams and you want to make sure you do it where you're going to get, good quality and good value for your money, call Artistic Decks, 314-280-0821. That's 314-280-0821. You can learn about Artistic Decks on their website at artisticdecks.net. Book now and get your deck built before the summer fully sets in. With a small down payment, you get on the schedule. Reach out to Artistic Decks and learn about the different type of customizable, innovative ways that you can implement the deck of your dreams on the back of your home. Think about sipping sweet tea and listening to the birds of the air or watching the ladybugs at night from the comfort of your back deck. This new living space that you've added to your home where you haven't sacrificed quality or value for the experience. 314-280-0821. 314-280-0821. Call Artistic Decks online at artisticdecks.net.
Baseball is all about stepping up to the plate when it matters most. And when you've been injured, you need a heavy hitter in your corner. Morgan & Morgan, America's largest injury law firm, proud sponsor of the St. Louis Cardinals.
Injured? Visit forthepeople.com for an office near you.
Men, need a clinic that accepts all insurance, including Medicare? U.S. Men's Medical Center in St. Peters does. U.S. Men's helps men experiencing loss of energy, focus, focus, concentration, and low libido. And they accept all insurance, even Medicare, for testosterone replacement therapy. Patients love the staff and the fact that, yes, I'm going to say it again, they accept all insurance, including Medicare. Feel better? Call U.S. Men's Medical Center at 636-244-5333.
Hey, it's Mark Reardon, and whether you're looking for independent living, assisted living, or memory care, New Perspective gives you the freedom to live the life you love with just the right support. Beautiful apartments, amazing dining, plenty of activities. Check out npseniorliving.com today. New Perspective Senior Living, a friendlier approach to senior living.
Taco to go, taco to, and a big Q. Taco to go, taco to go. Quick Trip Taco just $2.99. Comes with a big Q, this deal so fine. Brisket breakfast, so much to choose for $2.99. You really can't lose. Taco to go, taco to, this deal's legit. Taco to go, taco, only at Quick Trip. Taco to go, taco to go, taco to go, $2.99 to go.
Protect your liver and give it the support that it deserves by making Active Liver from New Nordic part of your daily wellness routine. Find Active Liver in stores at your local CVS, Meijer Grocery, or online at Amazon or NewNordicUSA.com.
That is exactly what I needed to hear.
Thank God someone here knows what they're talking about.
That's us. That's right. Gotta love this American ride.
All right, you need to take the time and get the full picture.
Oh yeah, here's the moment you have been waiting for.
Don't get me wrong, I love the ladies. I mean, they rev my engine, but they don't belong in the newsroom.
Andy's out. Ryan and Brad are in.
Goodness sake, kid. Keep your voice down. Your father's listening to the radio.
This is the Mannie Frey Show.
What we're seeing here in Los Angeles is Donald Trump doing what he does best, which is sow chaos and create disorder with little regard for the people who live here. The president doesn't care about making it worse. He's more than happy to see violent protests. It gives him something to talk about, something other than his big ugly bill that's going to blow a hole in the deficit and take away people's health care. So for him, this is a wonderful distraction.
Oh, it's a wonderful distraction. Adam Schiff is a truth teller. We know that from his past, that he is always just here to just give you the lowdown.
Super honest guy.
And I almost made that the poll today. I didn't tell Brad this, but one of the poll ideas was, does Donald Trump want violence in California? But it was too obvious that the answer is no. But that's the Democrat talking point. I thought it would be a really good way to kind of weave that into everything we're talking about today. Instead, the YouTube live chat poll is, can California be saved? Yes or no? That is kind of a big question. And we left it big because you could take that a number of ways. And we want to know how you take it and how you answer the YouTube live chat poll question. But back to that original point there with Adam Schiff and so many others. I could play so many audio clips of people saying, from Newsom and Karen Bass and all these people in California saying, well, this is what Trump wants. Really? Is that the memo goes out and everybody repeats it, but is that the memo, that Trump wants more violence? I can't find something other than maybe it would be a distraction from his battle with Elon Musk. Maybe I could see that. But that's not really a lot of what they're saying. What they're saying is that Trump is trying to escalate violence. Now, ask yourself, sit back and ask yourself, based on the previous presidency of Donald Trump, the 4 years of Biden, and now the new administration with Trump, has Trump shown himself a man who loves to see violence in America? I think that is a ridiculous, ridiculous talking point. But anyway, this is Ryan Wiggins, Brad Range in here. This is the last day of the Mannie Frey Show for the foreseeable future because Annie will be back tomorrow. So we're going to kind of have some fun today, especially in the 2 o'clock hour. Man, I don't even want to tell you.
We're going to have some fun today because Annie will be back tomorrow.
The 2 o'clock hour, we have got, here, I'll just tee it up for you. We want to know if you have any stories about sleepwalking.
Ooh.
If you have sleepwalked, or your kids, or you know anybody that, a really good story or whatever, we would like to hear from you. And we already have one guest confirmed to share a really wild sleepwalking story that I know just the beginning of. I said, wait, if it's a really good story, tell it then, because we're going to do that at 2 o'clock. And a lot more fun stuff coming up at 2 o'clock. But between now and then, I compiled this list here that I wanted to share. It is of what I consider to be the different factions of protesters that happen in the United States.
Okay.
And Brad, I haven't shared this with you, so I'm going to get your thoughts on this too. It's just 3 different factions here, so making up the triangle. One is the right. The right has protests. They're not that frequent. They're mostly peaceful, although everybody's going to remember January 6th.
Sometimes they're fiery.
Yeah. That one certainly was.
Yeah.
That one's a weird one to gauge everything by, though, because Democrats have gauged everything by that one.
Yeah.
And it really is one of many others for years. And it's confirmed that there were instigators planted in the crowd there from the FBI by Christopher Wray, and we know some of the names of them. So that's a weird one to gauge everything on.
I wouldn't say instigators. That hasn't been confirmed that they were instigators, but there were assets.
There were assets that were instigating, if you want to put it that way. I mean, whatever you want to call it. And so that's a weird one because you go, well, would they still have gotten violent if those instigators or assets weren't there? Maybe. We just don't know. You can't go back and redo history to find out. But that's a weird one. But for the most part, when you talk about right-wing protests, you're talking about the Tea Party, definitely not a violent faction there. It was more of a fiscally conservative people dressed up like Uncle Sam and going around protesting. And then since the Obama era, it's really looked more like not even protesting so much. You have individual protests like the March for Life and things that are cause-based, but general protests have been confined more to like rallies, like Trump rallies. Even when Trump wasn't the president, that would be like the resistance would be at a MAGA rally or something like that. And those weren't violent other than the fact that somebody tried to shoot the president, but that wasn't right-wingers being violent.
Right.
So you have that faction being one of the 3. The second, and this is where I'll defend the left a little bit. Annie will be back tomorrow, and she can slap me if she wants to. But I'm defending the left and saying that there is a faction of the left, and I'm talking about average people, not like the politicians, just the average people who go to a protest.
Yeah.
That they protest a lot more than we do on the right. You could go out really during any Republican administration, certainly of the last 10 years, and find any given weekend, you could probably find a protest going on somewhere. I mean, in my town, Collinsville, I drove through in a rainy day, and they were committed, I got to say. And there wasn't a single cause. It was like I stand with Ukraine right next to abortion, next to whatever else. I don't know what else. And then I drove through your neck of the woods in O'Fallon, and Illinois, and saw one there just randomly.
There was a guy for, I would say, this is right after Elon Musk went on stage and did the "My Heart Goes Out" salute. And he came out there. It was that guy and his dog and a little billboard. And I was driving past him early in the morning because there's a little town market going on. And I drove, and he's at the town intersection at the corner, and his little sign said, "I believe it was a Nazi salute." And that was 3 Saturdays in a row, so almost a month. He was the only one out there saying it, but he wanted to make sure that he was out there. So this is dedication.
And you see a lot of, I would say, smaller protests, although on June 14th, it sounds like they're going to get bigger, depending on the funding and how many people actually show up on those things. But I'll defend the left here and say that most of those are very peaceful. They're often very angry. People are very mad and charged up, but they're peaceful, and they're very frequent. And the demographic has oddly shifted in the last 10 years or so, that it's mostly older white people. I'm not saying it's only older white people, but that's the base. And that's been unique. That's different.
That was the people that were marching and singing earlier on after Trump got inaugurated.
Protesting Doge and all that. So there's the first 2. Then you have this third one that I'm really wanting to focus on here, and we'll get into a little bit more of this because Tanya J. Powers is coming up next, national radio reporter for Fox News. We're going to talk about some of the specifics going on within L.A. today and last night. We got a lot of sound to work through today, too, and I'm looking forward to all this. We got a lot, actually, in this show. But the third faction is the one I really wanted to focus on here because it's not the same as the left. I think it's important to delineate between the two. It's definitely not the right. And it's not the average left-wing protester who shows up with the sign and is really passionate. This is the basically commie anarchists who will take over protests,
yes,
but are not those same people. And in fact, there's not a ton of them. Let's say it's a few hundred people. Maybe it's a little bit more than that, maybe give or take, depending. But they move from thing to thing. And here's how you know they're not exclusively the left, although they do align with the left more. They show up during not just Republican presidents. Like during Trump, they go big.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. They go bigger than they would under Biden. But remember, the last 4 years under Biden, there's not one that I can point to and say, oh, remember this one in particular. But you recall, there'd be little things that would pop up.
Oh, yeah.
And you'd go, that's weird, because this is Biden.
Right.
And they'd still kind of pop up.
Specifically the Pacific Northwest.
Yes, exactly. And it was always curious because you go, if these are left-aligned groups, you could tell that they were more aligned with left, but they weren't part of it because they'd pop up and they'd go away a little quicker than they would now under a Republican president. But they were still there. And if you go back far enough, and these things don't go back that far because this is more of a relatively new phenomenon in America. It's very old in other parts of the world. But in America, you go back to Obama. He had quite a few of these things pop up under his administration, too. Now, whether he was okay with that or not, I don't know, and I'm not going to get into that here. But you remember Ferguson. I mean, of course we do.
Yeah.
We're in St. Louis. Of course we do. That was a big national story, and it was a riot. I mean, it was violent. There were Molotov cocktails. There was smoke. There was fire. It wasn't a huge area, but it was a riot. And it was violent at times, and it burned buildings and property. And that's what we're talking about here is the destruction of whatever. This is what the rioters do. And that is a completely different faction than the protesters who show up on the right, certainly, and the protesters who show up on the left. Now, we're going to break a little early here soon. Maybe not yet, Brad. I'm not saying let's break yet. But we want to get to Tanya J. Powers, and we're kind of on a schedule to get to her. But I want to come back, maybe at the beginning of the 1 o'clock hour even, and start playing some of the audio walking through because it gets blurry. The line gets blurry between the average leftist protester who is doing so peacefully, and I completely disagree with the reason they're protesting right now. Deporting people who are here illegally is something that the vast majority of America is behind. So you have the right to protest, but your protest, I just think it's a ridiculous cause. But you aren't necessarily causing the riots. And so it's weird because there are politicians who are getting caught up in these things. Some of them seem to be encouraging the riots without saying so, and others seem to be discouraging the riots but blaming it on Trump and just trying to defect. And so the politics is where it gets really blurry.
Yeah.
For the average citizen, you can definitely point to each person and go, you're in this group, you're in that group, or you're in this group. And that's what I wanted to kind of focus on here and set the stage for the rest of the show. Because we are going to take a break here. Are you saying we got to
at 22?
22. Okay, so we got a couple minutes. Let me play a piece of audio here from Tom Homan. Now, Tom Homan, of course, is the battle between California and the federal government is something that will be examined, and it's happening in real time. And who comes out on top in this? I don't know. It's, again, why we're asking the question, can California be saved? Because we're talking about completely different ideologies running that state, that big state, and that big economy versus what's running the federal government right now. Here's Tom Homan.
So sanctuary cities are going to get exactly what they don't want. More officers in the communities and more officers in worksite. We can't arrest them in jail or arrest them in the community. If we can't arrest them in the community, we're going to increase worksite enforcement operation. We're going to flood the zone. And based on what LA is doing right now, we're going to continue to flood the zones. We're going to be there tonight. We're going to be there tomorrow. We're going to be there every day in the next 4 years, arresting public safety threat illegal aliens. We're not going to apologize for doing it.
Look, if Newsom, Governor Newsom of California, or LA Mayor Karen Bass, or whoever these names are right now, if they wanted to keep the National Guard out of their state, they would not declare themselves sanctuary cities and states. Right. They would work with their own law enforcement, but they don't do that. They tell their law enforcement actually to not work with those people, with ICE. And so we're not just talking about ICE here. We're talking about National Guard. Those are different factions.
Well, and
Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say that's the other side of it too. I know a lot of people complain about the raids, but the raids wouldn't happen if your county jails and whatnot, whenever ICE would put a detainer out, they would hold on to those people. Then ICE could come into the jail and take that person out of the jail. You don't have masked guys raiding, all geared up and kitted up to go in and get bad guys out of the place. You would just have them going to the jail, and you'd have a transfer of prisoners. But the sanctuary city policies prevent that from happening, actively discourage it.
Yeah, they do. And in fact, I was on the Mark Cox Morning Show this morning, as I usually am on Tuesday mornings, do a hit there. And one of the things we talked about is that there were protests scheduled, similar type protests scheduled in L.A. and Florida over the weekend, Sunday, Monday. And look what they've developed into in L.A., and look what they developed into in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing. We're watching L.A. burn, and Florida, you didn't even know it happened. So this stuff was organic in a sense because these raids, these ICE raids, are happening all over the country. But in places where there's lawlessness, you have to send in more law. And then they complain that they're sending in more law enforcement. And really what they're doing is a mistake because America is with law enforcement. And when you have Governor Newsom stepping up and saying that he is against Trump, he's against sending in more, what he's saying is, unfortunately, we're kind of embracing the lawlessness here. They won't come right out and say that, but that is in practice exactly what they're doing. Once again, the YouTube live chat poll today, we're asking you, can California be saved? Yes or no? Let us know your answer to that question. We're going to break here and get to really live coverage from Tanya J. Powers, national radio reporter for Fox News. She's going to join us on the other side of this break and just give us the lowdown of what's happening in L.A. at the moment. And we got another couple big questions we're going to talk about with her. So stick around. That's next.
Annie's out, Ryan and Brad are in. This is the Mannie Frey Show.
You've heard me talking about Michael's Flooring Outlet as the go-to place for flooring here in St. Louis. There are a few reasons why it's important before you entrust Michael's Flooring Outlet online at igotfloor.com with your hard-earned dollar. You're going to make an investment in new flooring for your home. You're going to revive that space in your home that is going to come to new life when you put in brand new fresh carpet, the soft touch when you lay down on the carpet and you're playing with the kids, maybe the grandkids, that fresh new smell that's going to take over your home with the beautiful carpet. Everyone's going to ask you where you got it, and you're going to say Michael's Flooring Outlet. Why? Because they're committed to making sure that you are a satisfied customer and they deliver it with great quality products at a perfect value. Don't ask me. Go check out the reviews on their website at igotfloor.com. If you want to visit them in store, you can visit them in St. Charles County, West County, and in Darien Prairie. But again, Michael's Flooring Outlet online right now for a free estimate, igotfloor.com.
Don't get lulled into believing the IRS is getting soft. It's just the opposite. Hi, this is Lance Story with the Lance Story Law Firm. We are being told by IRS collection officers that their higher-ups are demanding that they get more aggressive than ever. So don't ignore them any longer. Level up. If you have unfiled returns, unpaid taxes, levies, or liens, call the Lance Story Law Firm today and let us get between you and the IRS. We'll protect your rights, including your right to appeal or even your right to take the IRS to tax court. Remember, IRS problems are legal problems, and they need to be handled by an expert attorney team who's done it for decades. So call the Lance Story Law Firm today. We're local. Our office is right here in St. Louis, or visit Lance, D-R-U-R-Y, law.com to schedule your free consultation with your local tax resolution law firm, the Lance Story Law Firm, 314-260-6120.
The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely upon advertisements.
Do you ever wonder if you've saved enough money to retire? Well, you can find out how you can make your money go a lot further in retirement in a 3-hour adult education class called Retirement Planning 101. Hey, it's Sue Thomas, and this is a one-night class. It's taught by a fiduciary advisor from Financial and Tax Architects. They have decades of financial planning experience, and they hold these at colleges and libraries throughout St. Louis. You will learn about reducing your taxes, maximizing your Social Security income, paying for health care, all of it. And there's no cost. Just bring 3 canned goods for St. Louis Crisis Nursery. Now, there are a handful of openings for the classes this month and next. Just register by calling 314-947-2012. 314-947-2012. It's the Sue Thomas number, 314-947-2012.
You're listening to the Annie Frey Show live from the Air Comfort Service Heating, Cooling, and Insulation Studio. Air Comfort Service is hiring licensed journeymen. Don't have a journeyman license? Air Comfort Service will help you get it. Get guaranteed hours year-round and more. Apply online at aircomfortservice.com.
Annie's out, Ryan and Brad are in. This is the Mannie Frey Show.
I think what really matters from sort of a long view here is the fact that he is militarizing and deploying the Guard for the purpose of policing Americans' protest activity, right? Our freedom of speech, our freedom of assembly. And there's a very big, stark demarcation between military troops and law enforcement, public law enforcement, civilian law enforcement. Right. And you are an army turned inside to police its citizens can cause chaos, fascism. And so I think that's the way, and civil war. Yeah. I think that's the way we need to look at it, because deploying the National Guard is supposed to be a last resort. But what this president is doing is that he's saying he's going to deploy them anywhere in this country where there is protest. So that is certainly not a last resort use of military troops.
It's funny how the people causing chaos, apparently, according to The View, are the law enforcement, not the people throwing Molotov cocktails. Tanya J. Powers is here, national radio reporter for Fox News. Tanya, thanks for joining us.
Sure. Thanks for having me on.
So let me ask you this. Is there any precedent for the National Guard being sent into a situation like this?
There is. It's been a very long time since. And when you say situation like this, I assume what you're talking about is without the governor saying, hey, please come to our state and do something. That has happened. It's just been a very long time. Usually governors are the ones who ask, okay, look, we need more help here, and they appeal to the president. Depending on the situation, this has happened in the past. In the 60s, if you will recall from your history book, that during the civil rights movement, there was federalization of the National Guard under Title 10 of the U.S. Code. Presidents Eisenhower, Kennedy, and Johnson used that to enforce the expansion of civil rights. That included the desegregation of Central High School in Little Rock, Ole Miss in 1962, the University of Alabama, different situations there. I can also tell you that kind of the latest on all of this going on with the National Guard deployment and the Marines as well. The president this morning spoke in the Oval Office to reporters. He left open the possibility of invoking the Insurrection Act that, of course, authorizes the president to deploy military forces inside the U.S. to suppress a rebellion or domestic violence or enforce the law, depending on the situation. That is one of the things that has been talked about a lot, especially with the deployment of the 700 Marines to Los Angeles. They are there now. He has deployed in total about 4,000 National Guard troops as well, and has said that, I think that your soundbite kind of alluded to that, but that's one of the things he said in the last several hours, especially. I think he reiterated that in the Oval Office, that they would be sending people everywhere if there were more protests,
Tanya,
and they felt like that's what they needed to do.
I know we only have you for a short time here as you're doing news hits, but I do want to ask before we run out of time with you, is this mostly confined to Los Angeles? I mean, we're talking about the governor here, so it could be anywhere, but I just keep hearing Los Angeles. Is it breaking out anywhere else?
It looks like Los Angeles seems to be, where the focus is. That is where, like you said, the governor and the mayor, Karen Bass, have both said, we don't need that. We don't need the help. Matter of fact, the governor, the attorney general, the state attorney general has even filed a lawsuit against the Trump administration saying this is an overreach, an abuse of power by the president to do this. And they've asked for, a restraining order basically to make him, stop doing this. Who knows if that, if they'll have any success with that.
The Insurrection Act, is that something that, not to put you on the spot, but is that something that has been used in the recent history of the United States?
Recently, I can't think of a time that it's been used. Right off the top of my head, I don't know. I'm also not a legal scholar,
Yeah.
so I don't have an answer. But that's a really good question. I do wish I knew the answer to that. That's a good one.
Well, Tanya, thank you so much for your reporting. I'd been looking forward to asking you just about that question about the National Guard history because, this is such a big topic. A lot of people are saying, well, how could he do so? But, there is precedent for that, it sounds like. So,
yeah, there has been in the past. You're right.
Thank you so much. Tanya J. Powers, national radio reporter for Fox News. Appreciate your time. Thanks.
Thank you.
Real quick, before we transition here, and you know what? Actually, I want to stick on this because I said I have a lot of audio to play here. And I set this up in the first break talking about how there are three different, factions, three different points to the triangle of people who protest in the country. And one of the questions we were thinking about asking for the poll was, have you ever protested? Because you could very much be in one of these categories listening right now. Number one being the right. This would be MAGA rallies, Tea Party. You could throw J6 in there because that was a protest. It's really the one that gets talked about the most that got violent. Number two, the left. And this is where I defended the left and said, for the most part, when I see leftist protests and right too, they're pretty calm. They might be passionate. In fact, most of the leftist protests I see, they're kind of mad. They're angry. They're much more frequent, but they're peaceful. And then the third one is these commie anarchists who've come in and are possibly paid. They're probably paid. I don't know if all of them are. But if you look online, you can see that people are grabbing screenshots of ads being posted on Craigslist in LA and other places saying, hey, you want to come out? And they won't quite say throw bricks at windows, but it's basically like, you want to come out and make your voice heard in a very strong way? We'll pay you $12,000 a week to do so.
Wow.
So that is real money that if I didn't have principles, I'd be like, dang, 12 grand.
Okay.
Go out to LA.
Holy cow.
Yeah, that was the high end, and the low end, like for a week in some of these ads, was $5,000. That's the low end.
Like, what do you have to do to get to the high end?
What do you have to do to prove that you got to the high
Yeah,
end?
it's like what? That's my mugshot.
I actually destroyed that concrete pylon and used the pieces to throw at cars.
Maybe it's by tweet about you.
I don't know, but those ads are real. They're out there, and so this is the different class of protesters that get mixed up. And so the politicians is where it really gets mixed up because they're not really sure whether they're supporting the protests or the Democrats anyway, because obviously Ron DeSantis isn't supporting this. But if you're Governor Newsom, you're going, am I supporting the protesters or am I supporting the violent protesters? He'd never say he's supporting the violence. But a lot of the money that these people get are from the same people funding these things. So they got to kind of dance around it a little bit. And I pulled this list from Liz Wheeler on X, 6 things you need to know about the riots in Los Angeles, because I thought it was really good at identifying that third group, not only of the people who are maybe receiving checks to throw bricks and light things on fire, but how it mixes in with the politics. And I pulled sound, and I'm like, let's do this because it's really good. Number one, she says they're violent, obviously. That's obvious. But just in case you hear the mainstream media and Democrats claiming the illegal alien riots are lawful protests with some unrest, no, the rioters are assaulting cops, pouring gasoline on car engines and setting them on fire. Don't support that.
Yeah.
Hurling rocks at passing cars surrounding ICE facilities, blocking highways, waving Mexican flags, wearing pro-terrorism, pro-Hamas, like armbands and stuff. And one prominent masked rioter declared that America is the enemy. And this is like yesterday. This is now 24 hours more of this that we're seeing. And so you're going to hear a lot of politicians say, no. This is all peaceful. Don't believe your lying eyes. Here's Maxine Waters.
Even those who were out of step with what we are advocating, peaceful protest, did not create any violence. Nobody was shot. Nobody was killed. Get it in your head. And so when martial law is called, what are you going to say? I missed the point. Don't miss the point, you all. Don't think that somehow, because they called out the National Guard, there was violence. There was no violence. I was on the street. I know. And I went from downtown detention back out into the community, talking to people what happened in Paramount, what happened in Compton, what happened in Inglewood. So, first of all, get it straight. And don't just rely on what you're being told or the few incidents that you saw.
Look, we're all smart enough to, all of us, whether you're left or right, we're all smart enough to understand that there are peaceful protesters. Then there are other people who are not peaceful protesters. That's the third group that I'm talking about. But when you hear somebody, a prominent politician like Maxine Waters, come out and say there was no violence, it's like Leslie Nielsen standing in front of the fire.
Nothing to see here.
This didn't happen behind me.
Well, and the thing to remember too is there are peaceful protesters among this crowd. But the thing that is happening isn't Donald Trump isn't calling out the National Guard to corral the peaceful protesters. He's calling out the National Guard to stop the violent protesters.
Yes, that's the point. That's the point of the Insurrection Act, is that there's violence.
Yes.
If a bunch of people got around and wanted to play guitar and sing "Which Side Are You On" and do like a 60s sit-in or something, I mean, it's annoying if you block a highway.
Do a march or whatever.
Whatever it is, you would not see National Guard have to be called in. It's when there's the remnants of cars still smoldering that you're like, that's a problem. We know that's coming again tonight.
Throwing rocks, attacking police officers, all that stuff.
Exactly. So number 2 on this list is that it feels like a color. If it feels like a color revolution, that's because it is a color revolution. Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass, formerly, and this is where it gets mixed up. So she was formerly the vice chair at the National Endowment for Democracy. If you ever hear a group that says something like that sounds so nice, like the international group that loves children, you're like, that's probably a terrible organization because they have these awesome names like National Endowment for Democracy. And then you follow the money and you find out, it was funded by our tax dollars through USAID, a funded NGO whose purpose was to foment color revolutions abroad, to topple foreign regimes. She was a part of this. She was the vice chair. Bass is a political warlord. She's utilizing her experience to encourage these riots to try to topple Trump and you. So really, some of these people actually like the violence because it makes them look like heroes because they're able to stand up against the power that be. In this case, it's Donald Trump.
I just have to say that if you dial back time and go to Friday, if immigration raids had not happened here, we would not have the disorder that went on last night. I will tell you that it is peaceful now, but we do not know where and when the next raids will be. That is the concern, because people in the city have a rapid response network. If they see ICE, they go out and they protest. And so it's just a recipe for pandemonium that is completely unnecessary. Nothing was happening here. Los Angeles was peaceful before Friday. When we find out when and where the other raids are going to happen, that will determine how the police.
So it's their own citizens who, she said, quickly mobilized to go protest raids. And then it turned violent. But she's saying, no, back to point 1, but there was no violence. It was peaceful, but we mobilized quickly against those things peacefully. But then they turned violent, but there is no violence. Okay. Number 3, who's behind the riots? Billionaire socialist Neville Singham, who is known for being a paid mouthpiece of the Chinese Communist Party. Thanks to Data Republican for reporting on that. I actually looked into that myself. That's all fact-check true. A group called CHIRLA, Chirla, which is a pro-illegal alien group that received, surprise, surprise, over $30 million in taxpayer grants last year, is a communist political party called the Party for Socialism and Liberation. All of this is traceable. None of this is organic. It's staged. It's fake. It's the vanguard of the Marxist revolution these people have been working toward. Here is Representative Luna calling that thing out.
Just found a really great deep dive here from the Data Republican on X. So who is behind all these crazy riots in LA and that will be across the nation? Just like remember in the Summer of Love with BLM, remember who's organizing all that stuff? With this specifically is being funded by an individual by the name of Neville Singham, who actually made his money by pushing communist Chinese propaganda, became a billionaire doing it. He's now funding, and the guy behind all of these protests was also behind and tied to the protests at Columbia University, pushing all of that BS, if you don't remember. And then also, too, if you actually look at the social organization that's putting out these flyers, it's the Party for Socialism and Liberation, which is, and I kid you not, the actual Communist Party. So they're using Hispanics, they're using illegal immigrants, they're trying to hype people up thinking that they care, but they don't care. They would stop illegal immigration. Obama deported people. Why all of a sudden now? It's political.
So this is the money behind the politicians, which is why they're real careful about these things. They don't necessarily come out and condemn the violence as much as you would think they would. I mean, they are people burning down. They're looting. Last night was looting. So some of these clips are before this all happened. But last night they were looting Adidas stores. They were looting Apple stores. It's turned into complete chaos. Why would you not immediately want to snuff that out? You should. If you're a politician, it's your town, but they don't, because a lot of their funding comes from these groups. So they may not personally like it, but they're real careful about it. And so they might actually like it.
Or maybe they do.
Maybe they do like it. I mean, that's another good point. But these things are verifiable. You can trace the money. And there's footage yesterday, I think even during the show, it was coming out of face masks being dropped off. Not face masks like the COVID masks.
Gas masks.
Like full fat, masks being dropped off by the truckload. Well, that's to prepare for a riot. That's to prepare people to riot.
For CS gas to prevent, stuff to get people to disperse.
Right. And the pallets of bricks and stuff that you see, that doesn't just happen. People have to fund that stuff. You have to make signs. Sometimes you got to bus people in. A lot of these people, you find out, we knew in Ferguson how many people were from outside this area that were bussed in to all these protests. This is the way it happens. That's all funded. That's all money that's coming in. That's the color revolution. That's the socialist, communist thing that we're talking about here. Number 4, Donald Trump's immigration policies are immensely popular. Even CNN was recently forced to report the reality that in 2017, Trump's immigration policies had a negative 21 approval rating, but today, Trump's immigration policies are supported, that he's in the black, as you could say, supported by most Americans with an approval rating of +1. Most people want a secure border, and they don't want crime everywhere. Here's Harry Enton on CNN.
Start off on the fact that immigrant citizens, immigrant voters, foreign-born voters have gone tremendously to the right on this issue in 2024 and 2025 versus where they were in 2020. Closest to or trust more in immigration. You go back to 2020. Democrats, get this, held a 32-point lead on this issue. Immigrant voters were in the Democratic camp. Jump forward to 2024, 2025. Look at that shift, a 40-point shift to the right among immigrant voters. Republicans now lead on this issue by 8 points over Democrats, more so than any other group that I could find. The group of voters who became more hawkish on immigration were, in fact, immigrants themselves, immigrants who are registered to vote in this country.
Another big question mark as to why Newsom, who is in the middle of rebranding himself to run for president in 2028, would find himself somehow here on the losing side of this issue when it comes to polling. Well, it's because of the money. Last one, Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass could stop the riots. California Governor Gavin Newsom could stop the riots. They're choosing not to because they want open borders. And actually, as I keep saying, it's just because of the money. Now, Karen Bass may want actually open borders because she was part of that organization. They don't care about criminal, illegal aliens. They don't care about you. ABC's News' Terry Moran voiced the vicious hatred from the left that they feel about you. He called Stephen Miller and associated you with vileness. I don't know if I necessarily make that connection, but that's what Liz Wheeler is saying here. But ultimately, her point is that Newsom and co., as I said at the beginning, could really step in and stop this. And in fact, you've seen so many clips of Democrat politicians pre-Trump that were all for a closed border and all for deportations and very, very limited illegal immigration. In fact, here's Newsom from last year saying how he supported ICE, he supported more funding for these things because there was an election happening.
They need more resources. Everybody needs more resources. And the Republican Party has been consistently standing in the way of providing the resources, the support for the men and women working hard, not only here at the border, but out throughout the state of California and this country to address the issues related to the border.
So what's the big point here? The big takeaway is that it's important to remember that when people talk about protests, that's too big of a term because there are actual protests happening that we could debate the merits of like crazy, and we do. But this is not that. This is part of the anarchy, protest class, color revolution, whatever you want to call it, the socialist commies, whatever, that come into situations and are apparently pretty well funded, and they sow violence, they burn things down because they're trying to enact violent change in America. That's the point right now. That's the tip of the spear that needs to be stopped. And then you can talk about the protests against ICE almost as a separate issue at this point. And I think it's important to do that. We'll take a short break here. Ethan's coming in for Wiggins America. We'll take a little bit of a breather from this heavy stuff. So stick around. This is the Annie Frey Show, the Mannie Frey Show today. Annie will be back tomorrow.
Annie's out, Ryan and Brad are in. This is the Mannie Frey Show. The Annie Frey Show is streaming online. Watch us live on YouTube and subscribe.
You already know about the Retirement Advisory Group. Maybe you've been to one of our events, but I don't need to tell you about a specific date at a specific place for you to be able to contact and partner up with Thomas Helbig, with Bob and Tammy Kershaw of the Retirement Advisory Group. You can do that right now when you call 314-993-9494. You want to protect your retirement? You need the right people to usher you out of your working years into your beautiful, exciting retirement years? That's when you call Retirement Advisory Group. Again, 314-993-9494, or you can go online to retirementkey.com. Come in and get a free retirement review. They'll even give you a free copy of their latest edition book, Your Key to a Worry-Free Retirement, so that you can be incredibly knowledgeable and informed about the things that the Retirement Advisory Group can help you do, and making sure you know what to expect in retirement. 314-993-9494. Give Retirement Advisory Group a call. Online at retirementkey.com.
And a lot of people, when they come in, they'll say, I'm usually much more active, but since I've been in pain, I've had to limit the activities I'm doing.
You're listening to Janelle, an arch support specialist at the Good Feet store.
So he came in and he wanted to be able to keep up, play sports with his kids. And from there, we figure out which arch supports complement those activities. I fit him with the arch supports, and as I followed up with him, he's messaged me and said, I took my kids to the park today. We're walking, we're exercising, riding the bikes, and those are all things that he wasn't doing before because he was in pain.
For over 25 years, the Good Feet store's arch support specialists have been helping folks to live the life they love without foot, knee, hip, or back pain getting in the way.
Our goal is to have that long-term change for them. That's what's most important, is knowing that you leave an impact on someone's life. And I like that.
Try them for yourself. Stop in for a free personalized fitting and test walk at the Good Feet store.
Visit one of our 2 locations, Creve Coeur and Shiloh, Illinois, and at goodfeet.com.
Need a lawyer? Onder wins. Call Onder Law at 314-9-MILLION. That's 314-9 all zeros. Or go to onderwins.com.
The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely on advertisements. Cash for Clunkers is back. Overhead Door Company of St. Louis is paying cash for your clunkers now. They'll haul away your old garage door and give you instant credit towards a new insulated door. $200 for the first garage door and $100 for each additional door. Cash in your old entry door too. It's Cash for Clunkers now at Overhead Door Company of St. Louis. Convenient, free, in-home estimates. Schedule online at overheaddoorstlouis.com or call 314-781-5200.
Today's YouTube live chat poll, can California be saved? What does that mean? We're leaving that up to you, but we got two options for you, yes or no. So jump on Andy's YouTube page and vote in the poll. The time is 12:49. This time check is sponsored by
Jerry,
Kelly,
Heating,
and
Air
Conditioning.
It's so cute.
It's time for a $98 AC tune-up.
The Mark Cox Morning Show.
Former Senator John Lamping.
The people that voted no, it was performative no, Mark. There was 13 no votes. 4 or 5 state senators can filibuster a bill to death.
The Mark Cox Morning Show. Weekdays from 5 to 9.
It's Thursday, and I'm thirsty.
You guys are so cute.
Normally, that's something that you guys would do, I feel like, in just, the whole cutes thing.
That was like you guys planned your
coupley.
outfits going into the time check.
Oh, my gosh. This
So
is awful.
cute.
You know what?
Wiggins. Oh, Wiggins. Not Wiggins America. Ethan's America. Ethan's America.
Didn't appreciate that, but thanks a lot, Brad. Gotta address John's comment here on the YouTube live chat quickly. We did not rehearse that.
They
Was
did a
all
little
on the
bit right
Not
beforehand.
really. I just gave Brad a little bit of guidance, like, "Hey, we're doing this. Get ready."
Guidance. Yeah, he said, I'm doing this, and so
That's
I'm just
basically what
along for the
happened.
ride at that point.
Hey, you did a good job. You adjusted.
You
just turned off my microphone.
I didn't touch
for
your mic.
no reason.
I didn't touch your mic.
I know. I literally just turned it off for no reason. So anyway, it's Wiggins America
You
time.
guys are like the odd couple.
Setting myself up really
Tomato,
well for
tomato.
this
You
segment
feeling
today.
left out there, Ryan?
No.
I sense a little jealousy.
I do too.
What's your topic?
7 favorite phrases to keep a conversation going.
Oh,
good. You guys ever feel like you're just kind of stuck in, like, oh man, like I had to find a way to like keep this going, like whether it be maybe to fill time or well, you guys, you're on the air, you're on radio. You ever feel
We're
like,
good at this.
yeah?
These are going to be like old hat to us because we probably do them all the time.
Think so?
I do.
Okay.
Although I'll try to apply them to my personal life, not my professional life.
It's kind of interesting because normally I feel like people are trying to get out of conversations. This is the opposite, where you're trying to like keep a conversation going. And I'm trying to think of something in real life where like that would be important to do. Maybe if you're trying to avoid having to talk to someone else or something.
Look, if you're stuck in a situation, I'm trying to come up with one too. Let's say it's this hasn't happened here recently, but it's happened at every job I've ever been at. You go to like a luncheon where you're celebrating something, either with the company or somebody's birthday or somebody's having a baby or something like that. And you go to a lunch and you end up sitting next to a coworker, maybe even on purpose, that you don't know, because you're like, I see this person in the office all the time, to sit down, have a conversation. And then you realize I have really nothing else to talk about.
That's good. So it's like maybe for filler.
Yes.
Okay, gotcha. Because then you want to avoid the awkward silence.
Yes.
That's okay. Good thought. Okay, well, let's see if any of these apply here. We got a couple minutes for these. The first one is, and these are just literally in quotations. I'm just going to read it. You tell me if you guys ever use them or your thoughts on them. Here's the first one. That's intriguing. Could you elaborate on fill in the blank?
I mean, that would work, but you sound like a nerd.
Yeah. I don't use that exact phrase, but that's cool. Tell me more about that.
This says questions are a common strategy when you are trying to open up or liven up a conversation. And this one, it says, is especially inviting, in quotations. It demonstrates genuine interest and encourages the other person to expand on a particular aspect of the topic.
So Brad went through the line first, and somebody brings that up, and you go, oh, that's intriguing. Could you elaborate on the fact that Brad went through the line first? I don't know
went
that it
into
would
that
work.
decision?
Was it a long
Well,
line?
they called for table number 1, and I said, screw that. I'm going now.
I'm on at noon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm important.
Number 2, I understand your point. Have you ever encountered and then related experience, or fill in the blank?
Have you ever encountered something different? Or
Yeah.
It opens the door, it says, for you to learn more about the other person,
Yeah.
connecting the current topic to personal
so
experiences.
I understand that you're eating lunch right now. Have you ever been to a restaurant?
Have you ever
really
experienced
good at
a restaurant? Yeah.
You know, I kind of just want to go to like a work luncheon with
I do
you,
too.
Man,
just to see how, because this is, I'm like, is this how Ryan would interact with sales?
So robotic. It's so robotic. Like I was like, oh, that's kind of neat.
You know, some of these
Has this ever
restaurants,
happened to you?
They're like called fast casual now. You don't even sit down if
Such
you
a dork.
order at the table. You ever been to one of those?
I can relate to this
I
topic.
can relate to this topic. That's intriguing. Tell me more.
You know, I've heard you ask Annie questions like that.
It's because I'm phoning it in that day. I got nothing.
The next one. What are your thoughts on blank? I'm interested in hearing your perspective. This is a real easy one in our world, though. I mean, like,
Yeah.
even if you don't actually care, just because politics, everyone has a
Dude,
different opinion.
You could replace this one with just walking into a room and going, Trump, huh?
True.
And it would ignite everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody would have something to say.
You'd have to call in the National Guard. Maybe
Yes,
the
you
Marines.
would. Yes, you would. Insurrection Act.
In today's world, people are so quick to share their hot takes and tune out anyone else's. This phrase represents a refreshing departure from that tired trend, shifting the focus to someone else by encouraging them to share their point of view.
Ooh, I got another one.
Mm-hmm.
You ever started a podcast? Because everybody's now started a podcast.
I could say yes.
So can I.
We're literally on one right now. Somebody is listening to this on a podcast, even though I'm saying it live. How's this happening?
Whoa. And to you listening on the podcast, hi.
Hi.
The next one here. How do you think that the current event or trend that is being discussed, right, will impact the relevant industry or interest?
The thing.
This is so weird because it's like it's putting general subjects.
How will the thing affect the current
That's basically
thing?
what it is. How do you think? And then it says in parentheses, current event or trend will impact in parentheses again relevant industry or interests.
If somebody came in with this list to any conversation, you're my friend. And you ask them that way, too. Don't fill in the blanks. Just kind of let them float and see what happens. Can you give us, I know we got to cut here, but can you give us a real quick preview of what we're going to do at 2 o'clock?
Yeah, so I had a friend that shared a phenomenal example of a sleepwalking freakout that occurred to him last night.
Last night.
Last
so this
night.
is breaking news.
So I brought this in, and Ryan's like, wait, let's make a segment out of it. Let's see if we can get some people to share if they've had
And
any
he's
crazy
coming on the
experiences.
show.
He's going to come on in the 2 o'clock hour and share
Yes, come back for the 1 o'clock hour first, and then definitely at 2 o'clock.
The Range St. Louis West is launching the countdown to 250 years of American freedom this July by giving away 5,000 rounds of 9mm ammo. 5 winners will get 1,000 rounds each, and winners are going to be drawn July 1st. Don't miss your shot. Enter now at therangestl.com/ammo. You have to be 21 or older to enter. It's open to Missouri residents and Illinois residents with a valid FOID card. No purchase necessary. therangestl.com/ammo.
You know what's faster than your paycheck? Literally everything. It's time to get your pay up to speed. With Earnin, you can access your pay as you work instead of waiting days and weeks for a paycheck. Get up to $150 a day with a max of $750 between paydays. No interest, no credit checks, and no mandatory fees. Because, I mean, hey, it's your money. Download the Earnin app now to get it and join millions of people making any day payday. That's EARNIN. Earnin is not a bank. Access limits are based on your earnings and risk factors available in select states. Expedited transfer is available for a fee. Terms and restrictions apply. Visit earnin.com for full details.
Let's just face it, right? Your home should work for you, not against you. Hi, it's Kim, and if you've been dreaming of a new kitchen, bathroom, or a finished basement, now's the time to call Lakeside Renovation and Design. They're St. Louis's trusted experts in turning houses into dream homes. Just imagine this, a spa-like bathroom, maybe a chef-inspired kitchen, or how about a cozy basement perfect for some movie nights? Their team handles everything from design to installation so you can just sit back and enjoy the process. Visit lakesidearty.com today to start your dream renovation.
This is attorney Todd Nissenholtz of Kaufman Townsley. Injured by a careless driver? We work with the top doctors in St. Louis. We'll help you get the expert medical care you need and the maximum amount of money you deserve. Call 314-500-5000.
If you're considering an annuity as part of your retirement plan, we need to talk. Hi, I'm Bob Stockdale, Senior Vice President Investments with the ClearPath Wealth Management Group at Stifel and host of On the Money Saturday mornings at 11 on 97.1 FM Talk. Annuities can be a useful tool for some retirement investors, but not all annuities are created equal. Every week, we meet clients who own complex annuities that don't suit their needs and, in some cases, actively undermine their retirement plan. Before you purchase an annuity, get a second opinion from the ClearPath Wealth Management Group at Stifel. Requesting a consultation is free of charge. To request a free consultation, contact us at clearpathinvesting.com. That's clearpathinvesting.com, or call us at 636-695-2650. That's clearpathinvesting.com or 636-695-2650. Stifel Nicholas and Company Incorporated, member NYSE and SIPC.
The Diamond Shop, 20% off all watches, even Movado, 40% off all men's in-stock jewelry, plus 40% off all pearl jewelry and in-stock wedding bands. Continues until June 28th. 10% VIP, extra 10% off purchase. Not valid for watches through the month of June.
KFTK FM Florissant from the Kaufman Townsley St. Louis's Injury Lawyers Studio. Call 314-500-5000.
That's 314-500-5000.
All on the free Odyssey app.
Trump sends a message. Lisa Brady, Fox News, as he rejects criticism of a military response to violent protests over immigration raids in L.A.
President Trump says downtown Los Angeles was under siege before he ordered National Guard troops and U.S. Marines to protect federal buildings and law enforcement.
If we didn't send in the National Guard quickly, right now, Los Angeles would be burning to the ground.
The president says after watching protests turn into riots during his first term, he was determined to make decisions faster.
It's common sense. You ask me that question. When there's no danger, they'll leave.
California Governor Gavin Newsom is suing the president, arguing federalizing the California Guard was unlawful.
Fox's Jared Halpern at the White House responding to a question about speaking with Governor Newsom. The president telling reporters he called the governor a day ago. The governor just posting there was no call. A new gun-related lawsuit as 15 states and D.C. try to block the return of seized conversion devices known as forced reset triggers, which can make semi-automatic rifles fire as quickly as machine guns.
Is coming after the Trump administration, as part of a settlement, agreed to return some 12,000 confiscated devices to their original owners. The suit, filed by Democrat-led states, accuses the Trump administration of hiding violations of federal law prohibiting the possession of machine guns in that settlement.
Fox's Lillian Wu. A 10th victim has died after the mass shooting at a high school in Austria's second largest city, Graz.
Austria's interior minister says the sole suspect is a 21-year-old former pupil at the school. News outlet Salzburger Nachrichten says he was Austrian, is believed to have had no criminal record, and used 2 legally owned weapons, a pistol and a rifle. The Austrian government's announced 3 days of national mourning.
Fox's Jonathan Savage, the gunman, killed himself. America is listening to Fox News.
The doctor's office that accidentally mixed up your files has your social security number. The power company that mistakenly cut your service has your payment info. And the hotel that lost your reservation has your passport number. You need LifeLock because your personal info is in endless places that can expose you to identity thieves. LifeLock monitors hundreds of millions of data points every second. If your identity is stolen, we'll fix it, guaranteed or your money back. Save up to 40% with promo code NEWS at LifeLock.com. Terms apply.
This is Joe Cordell of Cordell & Cordell. Serving in the military requires great sacrifices, not just for one's country, but also for one's family. Not surprisingly, divorce for soldiers is especially difficult, and it raises a number of challenges that are peculiar to military divorce, things such as deployments, relocation, retirement benefits. So if you're a soldier facing such challenges, go to CordellCordell.com.
The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely upon advertisements. 600 Kelwood, St. Louis. CordellCordell.com.
Air Comfort Service, heating, cooling, and insulation. Weather.
Chief Meteorologist Dave Murray.
The dry pattern continues. Delightful going through our Tuesday afternoon. Sunshine and 83 for the high. We will take it. Clear skies. Fantastic evening again. 62 for the overnight low. Wednesday sunny. Warm it up to 89 degrees. We still have not hit 90 plus this year. May have a shot at it on Wednesday. Thursday mostly sunny. 87. This is 97.1 FM Talk. Chief Meteorologist Dave Murray.
Stewart's American Mortgage and the Bagel Loan, waiting for your phone call. Why haven't you made it yet? You can text it as well at 314-324-4440. That's 314-324-4440. Call my friend Stewie and ask him about how a bagel loan can help you. You need to make this phone call to ensure that when you go through your mortgage acquisition, you're buying a new home, maybe you need to do a refinance, cash out. I'm talking to him right now about a situation where I might need some access to some capital to make a land purchase. I talked to Stewie. He's my number one go-to to make sure I'm making the smart money decision, and he can be yours as well. He's going to treat you exactly the same, and the number that I call and text Stewie on is the same number I'm giving you right now. 314-324-4440. That's 314-324-4440. With that mortgage, that new mortgage you're going to get, brand new or refinance, you are going to pay nothing in closing costs. A huge savings for you at 314-324-4440. Google the Bagel Loan and MLS number 226715.
Why do the national tax resolution firms need the tiny fine print at the bottom of all their TV ads? Hi, this is Lance Drury with the Lance Drury Law Firm. You don't hear fast-talking disclaimers in our ads because the claims we make are 100% transparent. The Lance Drury Law Firm primarily focuses on one thing, IRS problems, and we're regulated by the Bar Association, and we have a AAA rating with the Better Business Bureau. IRS issues are serious legal issues. The Lance Drury Law Firm has helped thousands of clients navigate the best resolution plans, and we tell you up front exactly how much it'll cost. Tax resolution law is all we do. So before you send money to some out-of-town, high-pressure salesperson, give us a call at the Lance Drury Law Firm, located right here in St. Louis. Call today to schedule your free consultation with me, 314-260-6120, or visit LanceDruryLaw.com.
The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely upon advertisements.
Mizzou football is here to stay. After an undefeated home season and a second straight 10-win year, the Tigers are looking for more in 2025.
Eli and the boys have done it again.
With a top 10 transfer portal class and a strong home schedule highlighted by Kansas, Alabama, South Carolina, and Texas A&M, you don't want to miss out. Get your spot in line by joining the season ticket waitlist at mutigers.com/FB waitlist. MIZ.
Hey, it's Mark Reardon. If you're nearing retirement or already retired, call my friends Thomas Helbig and Bob Kershaw with the Retirement Advisory Group. They'll show you how linking to the market is much safer than owning the market for your retirement savings. They're the official financial advisors of my show. Go to retirementkey.com.
That is exactly what I needed to hear.
Thank God someone here knows what they're talking about.
That's us. That's right. Gotta love this American ride.
All right, you need to take the time and get the full picture.
Oh, yeah, this is the moment you have been waiting for.
Don't get me wrong. I love the ladies. I mean, they rev my engine, but they don't belong in the newsroom.
Annie's out. Ryan and Brad are in.
Goodness sake, kid. Keep your voice down. Your father's listening to the radio.
This is the Mannie Frey Show.
First, we're restoring the warrior ethos. President Trump has charged me with focusing on warfighting, lethality, meritocracy, standards, and readiness. That's exactly what we're doing. We're focused on what's important, warfighting and warriors. We're sweeping away distractions and bloated bureaucracy. We've set standards that are high, equal, and unwavering. DEI is dead. We replaced it with a colorblind, gender-neutral, merit-based approach. Our force is responding, positively, incredibly to these changes.
You know, what's amazing is that merit-based, colorblind, gender-neutral, that used to kind of be the way we all just agreed back in the dark ages of, the 90s, that's the way things should be. I'm not really sure how we got away from that. Welcome back to the Annie Frey Show, the Mannie Frey Show. Ryan Wiggins, Brad Range, Ethan Hannaford, all in today. Annie will be back tomorrow. She was on vacation, and she's kind of settling back in, I think probably from jet lag today, and then she'll be back in tomorrow. And be ready to go. I think usually it's fun when Annie comes back because not only do we have a lot to talk about, but she's like ready to roll. And so be here tomorrow at noon because we joked that she's going to come out of the gate hard. There's a lot to talk about, and she hasn't said anything for 2 weeks, so get ready.
She's got things to say.
She's got things to say. That will be a monologue you will want to hear. In the meantime, DEI. And really all of the stuff that is being unwound from our government, this is stuff that Trump ran on. But I think as I look at it, that it's taking a little longer than I was hoping and expecting. These things are so deeply entrenched in the way that our government runs that everybody kind of had this moment after he was elected of like, oh, good, this is stuff that's going to happen. America obviously voted for him by over 50%. That still holds. And everybody kind of said, yeah, the corporate America even got on board and said, yeah, I'm not sure why we keep doing this. The answer to why corporate America keeps doing that or was continuing to do it is because they were legally afraid. And that comes from the government. If the government / culture says that this is the way things should be, corporations basically just line up to avoid paying. So that's why you had so much DEI in all of your corporate training and all that stuff. Not because your company really cared. There probably are some like super leftist bookstores that really cared about that.
Yeah.
Or even big corporations that did. But for the most part, most of them just kind of got in line because they knew that they wanted to say if they ever got sued by somebody who said, you fired me because I was gay or something like that, that they could say, no, we didn't. Look, we did training about it. That's why they do it. Everybody knows it too. Yeah. And everybody eye rolls it because everybody knows that's why they do it. And so that stuff is now kind of exposed, but it's taking longer than I was expecting when everybody had this breath of fresh air and said, yay, we're finally going to address this stuff. Do you agree?
Yeah. And actually, like when you're sitting there, you're looking at Pete Hegseth on there, and he's talking about that. You're actually seeing that reflected in the numbers. People looked at that and said, "I don't want to be part of that. I don't want to be beat over the head with that." Oh, it's gone. We're going to work on being warriors. I'm back in.
Mm-hmm. And I'm glad to see them talking about it a lot because that's part of the culture shift. So you can do the stuff behind the scenes all you want, but you need to be out there saying this is what we're doing so that everybody knows that there's this big shift happening in America. Another one that I think we haven't talked about a lot, and I don't want to say it's been a disappointment. It's just not happening as fast as I was hoping. And you think I'm going to say DOJ here and FBI. I'm not. I actually thought this is going to take time. Building legal cases. I mean, you watched. If legal cases were quick to happen, they would have gotten Trump like that.
Yes.
But they had to build, once he declared in 2022 or the beginning of 23, whatever it was pretty much 2 years from the election is when he declared that he was going to run. So I think that was 22, the end of 22. When he declared, they immediately started going after him legally. Now, maybe he waited to declare because he knew that was going to happen, and he waited just long enough that they weren't able to get it done before the election. Or maybe he was just fortunate. I don't know which. But it takes time to build these cases. Now, the one I'm talking about that I don't want to say I'm frustrated with, but that I would like to have seen move faster and continue to move faster is Doge.
Yeah.
Doge was a big promise. Doge came with these absolutely astronomical numbers of saying, look, by next year, we will have saved $1 trillion. Now, we're not there yet. We're talking about the middle of 2026. I think they were saying that by the sesquicentennial, the 250th anniversary, and I may be getting the exact details wrong, but around then, they said, by then, we want to eliminate Doge because we will have done everything we needed to do and saved $1 trillion. There's still time between now and then, but it's happening so much slower than I think even they thought it was
Yeah.
going to.
Well, part of that is you have 130 days of Elon Musk heading that up, and really, if we're honest, Elon Musk is the driving force. He's the one that makes those things go, and at the rate that they go. So if it was going to get a lot done, it was going to be then. But then I look at the court battles. Anytime they went to cut something, somebody was suing something about something. It's just like in there, and it just grabs everything and mucks it up and slows it down. So I was hoping that they could go in there and find waste, but the other side of it is, too, that I didn't realize, and when they got in there, you remember them talking about the computer systems and how the computer systems were ancient and outdated?
I mean, trying to get somebody retired.
They were literally trying to reinvent computer systems so that they could search the computer systems to find the waste, fraud, and abuse.
Yeah. So it's a big process. And I'm actually glad to see that that Musk is stepping away from Doge, because Doge really needs to be bigger than just Musk.
It needs to be bigger than Musk.
And another area that we don't really talk about, and this is where you get into the personalities of the people rather than the mission, which I'm not trying to do, but it happens. With Musk is that he may just be kind of tough to work with. Vivek Ramaswamy didn't seem to want to work
tough to
with
work
him.
for.
Or
for
work
sure.
for.
Yeah.
Because you remember it was supposed to be Musk and Ramaswamy heading up Doge. And like within 2 weeks, Ramaswamy was like, I'm a peace out here. And then Musk has kind of gone off the rails on Trump. Now, again, we talked about this last week. I agree with Musk's overall assessment that we need to be spending less money. I think most conservatives do. It's just a matter of what are we going to do with it. But I do think that he's not done himself a service in staying committed to that talking point by going off and talking about the Epstein files and Trump and all this stuff. It was like, dude, you didn't have to do all that.
Well, he lost the plot when he did that. And when you lose the plot like that, you lose some credibility.
Yesterday, you weren't here, Brad, a little under the weather, but we talked to Ryan Schmelz, and we talked about that topic. Has Musk really changed the game on what the Senate is going to do with the big, beautiful bill? And he said he thinks initially there was some reaction to it, but he's not sure that really the train may have rattled a little bit, but it's still on the same track. That it doesn't look like a lot's changing, which I'm depressed to hear, because I want them to continue to cut that down. But between those two guys, I was looking for an excuse to play this anyway. Let's do it. It's Whoopi Goldberg talking about her assessment of Elon Musk and Trump and the feud.
In this fight, my money is on Donald Trump, though, because he clapped back and said he'll go after Elon's Pentagon contracts.
Yeah.
He gets over $20 billion from the Department of Defense.
And I love that y'all bought into it.
Oh, it's not fake. It's not fake.
I do believe it's fake.
Oh, you do?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. It's too strategic. It's tapping.
You're giving him too much credit.
Oh, no,
Yeah, I
no,
don't think
no.
it's that kind of problem.
No. I just feel like, oh, yeah, now suddenly everybody's upset about stuff. I'm sorry. No, this is another distraction to keep us talking not about the stuff we're talking about, but the stuff they want us to do. I'm not buying it. I don't buy them because they lie.
Yeah, but both of them are so legitimately crazy.
They lie all the time. They brought a man back. They brought a man back, this gentleman you were talking about. First they said, oh, look at his hands. He's got all these gang signs. Then he's this. And now he's been running people out of the country. He's been, trafficking people. It's like, okay, what else? Bring me more, because I don't believe anything they say anymore, because they have shown themselves not to be the most trustworthy people you want.
I find it funny that her example there at the end about Kilmar Abrego Garcia is that they were talking about he was an MS-13 gang member, and now he's being prosecuted for, human trafficking. And it's like, those two things aren't mutually exclusive, right? He can be both, and he is both.
Yes.
Actually, that second one lends more credence to the first one.
Oh, what's the name of the senator that went and had margaritas with him?
Oh, Van Hollen.
That guy. I mean, come on, buddy. He put his eggs in that basket.
Yeah, he did.
He made a spectacle of it. He made it to where we would try to remember his name, although I still don't. and yet, if you're gonna do that, if you're gonna grab an issue and say this is gonna be my thing, people are gonna remember me for this. Why that guy?
Oh my gosh, the Maryland father.
I mean, you just knew this thing's gonna implode. And it has. That guy is a terrible guy. And all the things he's being charged with now is unbelievable. And now Van Hollen's like, well, I mean, you just don't hear from him. I'll give Whoopi Goldberg credit for one thing. She's at least consistent.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, they lie all the time, so they got to be lying about this. So it's not real.
What do you think? You think they're lying? Do you think that the blow up was fake, or do you think it was real?
Tell you what, I could see it being fake if they hadn't have gone as deep as they went. If they had just had this kind of falling out and it was a little public because Elon wanted to make it clear that he was away now.
Yeah.
Because he's, his businesses have suffered basically by fire.
Yes.
And so he's had to step away to deal with these multi-million, billion-dollar companies that he runs and be focused on that. So he did a service, and now he's stepping away and saying, I got to do this. I could see them trying to do a public break so that everybody knew that was separate now.
Mm-hmm.
But it got pretty
got
personal.
Yeah.
And when it did, you went, oh, man, I think this probably was organic.
Well, it's like watching a magician. Have you ever tried to watch the other hand of the magician? So if like this is the shiny thing, what is the other hand that they're trying to do or whatever? What would be the upside of the fake battle? And I'm struggling to come up with anything because, like you were saying, whenever it got really personal, like it doesn't move the trains down the track. Maybe Trump wanted more cuts in the big, beautiful bill, but he knew he couldn't get it in the House. So he's like, let's have Elon Musk flip his lid, and maybe we can get that down the tracks a little more in the Senate, and we can get some more cuts out of that.
That would have been it.
But then, there was the other stuff, and it's like, that doesn't move it.
I don't think so.
Yeah, at
don't
that
bring
point,
up Trump and the Epstein
yeah,
files.
and now
if
he
you're-
looks manic. And
if you're friends.
Yeah, like let's not. Yeah, so I think that it was a real.
Was it Thursday when you were here or Friday when you were gone that we took calls on that subject? It might have been Friday.
It was Friday because it was blowing up Thursday whenever we were coming off the air.
Yes. So Friday we took calls on that. And one of the people called in and said exactly what we were just discussing. Is this fake or real? And we weren't really asking that question.
Mm-hmm.
We were just asking, whose side are you on? What do you think about this whole thing? And he said, well, I think the whole thing's fake. And it's to make sure that Musk can step away from this. And I'm like, okay, I can give you that. But I had never heard anybody explain until you just said that. Well, why would Trump want to do that?
Yeah.
What does Trump gain out of it? Well, I guess if it had stayed on the rails and Trump wanted to cut more of the bill but didn't want to be the guy coming out and saying it,
yeah,
that would make sense. I didn't even think about that.
Because then he can stick on I said we didn't want to cut more Medicaid.
Yeah.
But the only way we get it across were these senators, and Elon Musk wanted it to happen.
I'll make this final point in the segment, and then we'll move on. We'll talk about RFK in just a second here and the vaccine stuff. But I really believe that this is the number one thing that I've been kind of disappointed in Trump this time around. The dude is nonstop. He's hitting 98% of what I'd want. So I don't think that I'm like, oh gosh, here we go with Trump again. But the one thing I would like him to do is come out in that bill, because he says, well, I'm a fiscal hawk too, You're not acting like it. If you're still, now they're decreasing the budget,
mm-hmm.
That's good, but they're still not getting it, in the words of Ryan Schmelz, deficit neutral.
Mm-hmm.
And I said balanced budget, and apparently those two things are a little bit different. So I apologize if I'm crossing terms, but
deficit is spending. So
yes,
spending more than what you have.
Yes, and I'm saying,
and then
deficit neutral versus balanced budget.
Deficit and debt are the two things that people get confused.
And that's not what I'm talking about here. But anyway, point being that I would like Trump to step up and say to the Senate right now and the House, look, if you guys can find things we can cut and we can get this back to deficit neutral or balanced budget, whatever the term is, then do it. We need to do this for the future of the currency of the country. You can see how Trump has used the currency to avoid wars.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's doing it through tariffs. He does it through deals. He threatens NATO. You got to pay your fair share and all this stuff. It's all money. If you lose the leverage of the American dollar, you're not going to be able to do that stuff anymore. You're not going to be the world power. And Trump should understand that as much as anybody does. So it's not going to affect him right away, although, the fact that, not to get too deep into this, but the fact that bonds are reacting the way they are to the fact that we're not deficit neutral, that's bad. That's going to keep rates high and everything is stuff that Trump gets, Bessent gets, Howard Lutnick, they understand this stuff. So I wonder if they're having a little bit of like maybe we do need to show that our credit is worthy, get our credit rating back up here. I wish he would come out and say that. And maybe even not publicly, but talk to the Senate, talk to the House behind closed doors and say, what can we cut to get this thing even? Because right now, if you click on stories about it from leftist news articles, they're all going to say, well, this adds X amount to the deficit, as if they ever cared about that until it was Donald Trump. But if you can come out and say we balanced the budget, I think that's kind of a pretty big deal. I don't know if that gets you midterms votes or not. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. But it's still a big deal, and it's the best thing for the country. And I would really like to see him come out and pressure Congress to cut more from this while keeping his agenda. I think that's all possible. I would like to see that. Let's take a short break. This stuff about RFK is getting buried. He's fired a whole bunch of people, 17 people from the vaccine panel. And I want to play for you some audio from that. And then also just give you the statement from him about it, because you can read about it and everybody's going to get their spin. I'd like to actually give you exactly why RFK said he did this, coming up in the next segment.
Annie's out, Ryan and Brad are in. This is the Mannie Frey Show. Find the podcast, on-demand audio, and more at 971talk.com/Annie.
I want you to know that STS Armory in Pontoon Beach, Illinois is a Second Amendment supporters domain. When you are in Illinois and you want to purchase a firearm, if you're looking for a great place to buy ammunition, if you need to take a class, a lot of people will seek out STS Armory because they're the very best in conceal and carry education, those renewal courses. I took mine in November of last year, got my conceal and carry license renewed there, but you can take the initial classes also. Maybe you are right at the beginning and you just want basic education on having a firearm in your house or learning about how to fire it in a safe way, to store it in a secure way. The classes that you are going to have access to at STS Armory are second to none. They have ladies only classes as well. And they have, safety security classes that teach kids how to be responsible in a household that has firearms. 618-931-GUNS, 618-931-GUNS. Call and see what classes they have available today online at sts-armory.com.
If you have been in a car accident in the past and have settled your case, I may have some good news. Some unethical lawyers have people known as runners who come directly to your hospital room or home and solicit your case. It's a disbarable offense. Anyone that would hire these scumbags needs to have their heads examined. I'm John Morgan of Morgan & Morgan. Now for the good news. If this happened to you, we will sue these lowlifes and fight to get all your fees back. And then look and see if these bottom feeders also malpractice your case and sue them for that too. You have nothing to lose and everything to gain. Visit forthepeople.com for a free consultation or call Pound Law on your cell, pound 529. If someone does this to you, call the Bar Association and report them. Let's fight these bums. Morgan & Morgan, forthepeople.com. Injured? Dial Pound Law or visit forthepeople.com for an office near you.
Do you owe $10,000 or more in credit card debt or personal loans? With credit card debt at all-time highs, Debt Relief Advocates is urgently notifying consumers of debt relief now being made available, designed to aid consumers with out-of-control credit card debt. Those who qualify and enroll for this relief program will only have to pay back a fraction of what they owe. This is not bankruptcy or a debt consolidation loan. This is a relief program that credit card companies would rather you not know about, as it ends your debt nightmare and saves you lots of money. Consumers owing at least $10,000 in credit card debt or personal loans can now take advantage of this debt relief as the cost of living skyrockets. Debt Relief Advocates has established a relief hotline for you to call to learn what debt reduction you may qualify for, so don't wait. For this free information, call the Relief Hotline at 800-414-3221, 800-414-3221, 800-414-3221.
You're listening to The Annie Frey Show, live from the Air Comfort Service Heating, Cooling, and Insulation Studio. Save now with Carrier Cool Cash rebates up to $1,700 on a new AC or HVAC system. For details and a free estimate, visit aircomfortservice.com.
You're listening to The Annie Frey Show. The Annie Frey Show is streaming online. Watch us live on YouTube and subscribe.
I'm drinking a cherry Coke that has high fructose corn syrup in it.
Ooh, RFK's going to be so mad at you.
Do you think he's listening?
Probably. I think he's a big fan.
I hope not right now. I hope he listened to the last segment, maybe the first hour. That's fine. But I hope he tuned out because he had super important
Maybe
meetings.
you get that text message.
Oh, gosh. When RFK texts me, I'm like, oh, here we go again. Get out of my pocket, buddy. That sounded weird.
Yeah.
Nice
watch.
I went out and got this soda. Thank you, Odyssey, for the little soda cooler that we have, like the little fridge out in the lobby that we have at the top of the hour. And I walked past our our front desk person, Tammy, and Tammy was in the middle of doing something important. And so I knew I probably shouldn't bother Tammy. So I did anyway, though, and I said, hey, Tammy, you remember I was getting a soda. And she knew exactly what I was doing.
Yeah.
So I said, do you remember So Delicious? And she said, no.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, they were little soda bottles that were fruit snacks.
Okay, were those where they look like cola bottles?
Yeah, they looked like cola bottles, and they were all different flavors.
I didn't know they were called So Delicious.
But they were called So Delicious. And I'm telling you what, when I was 8 or whatever those came out, I was like, this is the most genius name I've ever heard in my life because it means two things. I don't know if you guys understand this. It was like I would explain this to people. So Delicious is unbelievable because it's soda-licious, but then it's also so delicious. It's how do these marketing geniuses come up with this
brilliant
stuff? It's unbelievable. And it hangs with me today, even though those things were only out for like a year. And I was like, Tammy, you remember So Delicious? And she goes, no. And I'm like, oh, okay. Well, see ya.
Okay, bye. You didn't want to try to use one of Ethan's.
That was the whole. No,
conversation?
thank you. I should have. Somebody just said, what was that? Up on the chat there. Bring that back up, whoever just did that. Were those the ones that were filled with the little juice? No, I don't think these were. I think these were just little. They had the little granule sugar.
They look like gummies, though.
They look like gummies, but they were little soda bottles, and they had that granule sugar on the outside of them. And they weren't really that great. They just were cool. I mean, you're like, oh, when you're a kid, you're like, hey, I'm drinking tiny soda. Look at me. Anyway. Back to the Tammy conversation. So anyway, RFK. I just typed in RFK on Google. And it says, here's the top headlines. Politico, RFK to fire all members of the CDC's Vaccine Advisory Committee. True. And not biased. That is a factual headline. RFK removes all current members of the CDC Vaccine Advisory Committee, CNN. Okay, maybe a little spin there, but not bad. CNBC, RFK's firing of CDC vaccine advisors circumvents science and could threaten, and then it cuts off. And I don't want to click on it because I don't want to give them satisfaction. Justified that everybody's freaking out over this because it is a pretty big change. But, anytime RFK does anything, you're going to hear that people are losing their minds over it. So I don't know if we can get deep into this. Tell me what to do, Brad.
Well, he's on hold.
Okay, Jim Carafano. So Jim Carafano's joining us. I'll put this on hold. We'll come back to this because I want to talk to Jim. Jim, hello. Thanks for joining the show.
Yeah, sorry, I'm a little late there. I was with somebody really important.
Was it Annie Frey?
Not that anybody's more important than you guys, but
okay. Well, as long as it was somebody super important like Annie or the president or somebody like that.
Yeah, exactly. It was somewhere between Annie Frey and the president of the United States.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good because that could really mean anybody. Jim, let's talk about some of the things we were talking about in the last segment with the DEI and Secretary Hegseth removing DEI. I was going to start by just asking you, do you think that this is so deeply entwined in our military that he's having tough time getting it out, or was this a pretty clean cut?
I think people are probably thrilled with this. And I'll tell you, this is not an opinion thing, right? The market votes, right? And the fact that the services, particularly the Army, are hitting their recruiting goals months ahead of schedule, that is just factual proof that everybody is ready to put this stuff in the dustbin of history. That has nothing to do with military service. And, you know, as a guy that was in the military for 25 years, and, you know, even before, you know, supposedly you could have gays in the military because we've only had gays in the military since, like, the American Revolution, but and nobody cared. But it's like people are there to serve, and that's it. And anything that gets in the way of that is like, why am I here? You know, there are other places I could go and get paid a lot of money to be shot at and rained on and, you know, not be with my family for 365 days a year. I don't need to do this except for the fact I'm here to serve my country. So anything that strips away all the extraneous stuff other than serving the country, people in the military, that to them is an affirmation that they have decided to make service to nation a choice that means something.
It just seems so obvious, too, that this is the goal. You know, when you strip some of this stuff back, you realized, I think we've been brainwashed by some of this nonsense that we've all been told for so long is the most important thing. And when somebody comes in, like Hegseth and many other agencies, and comes in and just says, no, here's the point, and it's like you wake up and everybody goes, oh, yeah, that's real.
Right. I mean, it's like we get the joke. You know, everybody is used to a new administration comes in, you change the bumper stickers. You can't call it, we get all that, right? But to basically be told that the purpose of the military is not the purpose of the military, it's climate change and diversity is our strength, and making sure that it doesn't matter if the militaries can actually fight, but as long as they have low carbon emissions, that's all that matters. That is not just the political shift from one administration to the next. That is basically people taking instruments of government and subverting them for political purposes. And I got to tell you, nobody in the military signs up for that. Because if we wanted to do that, we could have joined Black Lives Matter or MoveOn.org or something. We only join the military for one reason, and that's to serve the rest of the nation and protect them.
Jim, there's so many individual topics that we could kind of hone in on, which we tend to do with you, and I appreciate that. But I like taking a step back with you a little bit, too, here. And I want to ask you this. You travel a lot. You're all over the world all the time and meeting with people, meeting with very important people, like you were just a few minutes ago, apparently. How do you view – I should better ask, how does the world view America now under Trump versus when we had Biden? Is it very, very different? I got to
be honest. Most of the world thinks that Trump is evil and America is devolving into civil war and we're crazy. And the reason for that is they consume the same leftist media that we do. You can go to countries in Europe which are 99% conservative, and if there was a leader there who was everything with Donald Trump, he would get elected, and they hate Donald Trump, and they would have voted for Kamala Harris. Because they're consuming the same nonsense media that they are. Now, contrast that, though, with the people that are paying attention to real policies in countries, whether they're our friends or an enemy, and they take Donald Trump deadly seriously, and they realize that America is not a country to mess with. It's very, very weird, right? You can go to the most conservative place in Europe, and they would have voted for Kamala Harris. But on the other hand, if you said, well, here's what's actually doing, they would say, well, that's great. We would do that if we could do that.
It sounds like what you're saying is it's not love, but it is respect.
Well, if the people that run countries, depending on who they are, they either fear or respect the United States. Most people who are like you and me, we just want to go to Walmart and buy groceries. We're not paying attention to all this foreign policy and national security stuff. And if we pay attention at all, we just see what we see on TV and we say, oh, geez, look at that. And so, they turn on the TV and it says riots in Los Angeles and it's all Donald Trump's fault. And they think, oh, riots in Los Angeles and it's all Donald Trump's fault. But we shouldn't be surprised at this. People forget when Ronald, we revere Ronald Reagan now, but when he was president of the United States, most Europeans thought he was going to get us all killed, and he was a crazy movie actor, because that's what the American press told them. So that's what they believed.
Jim Carafano from Heritage on with us right now. I have a friend who has very, very deep roots in Ireland. And Ireland.
You have a friend?
I do. I have one friend. It's not Brad.
Wow.
He's just a colleague. But my one friend has very, very deep roots in Ireland. And that's the whole story. I just wanted to let you know that because I'm kind of cool. Like I hang out with people. No.
Yeah, no, totally. I mean, Ireland's a good example, right? So if you go to Ireland, which is like become one of the most ridiculous woke countries on the planet, they think Donald Trump is wacky crazy. But then when you say, well, what do you think of, high energy prices that are, making, electricity unaffordable? Well, we don't like that. Well, what do you think about these crazy social policies that are basically destroying your country? Well, we're not real crazy about that. Well, what do you think about unlimited immigration that allows just anybody to walk in your country and get welfare? Well, we're not too thrilled about it. Hey, so what do you think about your economy? Well, we hate all that stuff. Well, you know what? That's exactly the kind of dust that Donald Trump is fighting. And they go, oh, well, I never thought of that.
You knew exactly where I was headed because that's exactly what I was going to ask you is how does a European nation respond? Because that's what he says too. My buddy who goes over there pretty often, he says he has conversations with people in Ireland and you get outside of Dublin and it's very different, of course, it's more rural.
Right.
And he said most of these villages that you talk to, they have this very cursory understanding of what's going on in the United States. Right. Exactly what you just said. But if you start talking about actual policies, they're very conservative, but they don't know that they are.
Exactly. But it is changing in Europe. So, 5 years ago, no European conservative leader would stand up and say, net zero is about the dumbest idea I've ever heard, and transition things to fantasy, and we're all going to starve to death if we don't get responsible energy policies. Even if they believe that, they would never stand up in public and say that. Because they would say, oh, my God, you don't believe climate change? Oh, I'm going to send Greta Thunberg out to your house. Now they say that in public. And two reasons. One, because it's true. But the other reason is Donald Trump put his head out of the fossil first, and they didn't shoot it off. So if Donald Trump can do this, I can do this. So the reality is that Trump has liberated so many politicians around the world who said, this guy can do these things, which we all knew were bogus, and he can say that in public. And, well, I can't say not get shot because he actually did get shot, but he can say that in public and politically survive. And maybe if he can do it, we can do it too. So he has given courage to leaders all over the world to stand up and say, you know what, maybe governments should actually contribute to the welfare and the security and the freedom and the prosperity of the people that they govern. Maybe they should do that. And you know what? Voters might actually like that. Voters might actually like being told to live your lives and do what you want, and that government's just going to do the stuff government's supposed to do, and it's not going to dictate, which bathroom you use. I mean, that's actually turned out to be a pretty much a winning combination. But if it wasn't for Donald Trump saying that on the global stage, everybody else just would have went to Davos and politely applauded when they were told which vaccine to take.
I've heard that so many times, Jim, but I know you travel and you're actually there, that so many of the issues that are left-right in the United States have been adopted by other countries in ways that I'm surprised to hear that, there's like transgender issues happening in Korea and stuff. You're like, right. Oh, that's really happening. Like, that's our export now.
Exactly. It's so and the happiest day of our lives is when the U.S. ambassador shows up and goes, you know what? I am not going to tell you that you have to have gay pride year. Yeah, and they're like, kidding. Oh, thank you. We really appreciate that.
They listen to that? I mean, they're really hanging on our words that much that they care?
Oh, yeah. Actually, the person I was with actually was a really effective former ambassador for the first Trump administration. And I was saying, when American ambassador in a country is like God, and if when God shows up and tells you you're not gay enough, and you're just like, well, wait a second, this is our culture, this is our religion, this is our tradition. We actually believe in families. We actually believe in two genders. We actually believe that being religious is not an affront to people. That men shouldn't compete in women's sport. We used to think those were good things, and yet God is coming down from heaven and telling us no, be woke, and that's like, whoa. Well, you don't argue with them because they're God. But then when that person leaves and an ambassador comes in and says, no, you're actually right. You should have your own culture and traditions, and we shouldn't dictate to you how to live your lives. They're like, well, yeah, that's what we want to hear from this powerful and important person. So the world is a changing place, and like I said, this global media elite that parrots these ridiculously stupid messages, it actually does resonate around the world. Just like people see these movies about America and they think, oh, and that's what because that's all they know. I mean, look at your perspective. I mean, you go to these other countries and you go, oh my God, people aren't the caricature of what I thought they were, and oh my God, these people actually. But that's because you're not there, right? Believe what you see. So if you see, people on TV and they only speak French, and you think, and they hate Americans, you think, oh, well, France is like that. But no, the world's pretty much a lively place, but you can't really tell that from listening to this media, which only wants you to look at the world the way they want you to look at it. I mean, this is the fundamental difference between what we're seeing between really this ideological conflict, not everywhere in the world, but a lot of the world, between the left and the right. In the left, it's about you achieving an orthodoxy that we all accept as this is what we're told is true. Conservative is the opposite. It's not about driving an orthodoxy. It's about doing things that actually deliver outcomes and accepting the fact that we're going to disagree and sometimes argue and have different views about things, and that's normal. It's not evil to disagree about things, and it's two very, very different views of the world. And you would see that more starkly if those views were equally represented in media and popular culture and those things, but they're not.
Man, Jim, it was worth the wait. I really appreciate you and your perspective. Gosh, it's so fascinating just listening to you talk about these things. And you meet with the people that would know, So just because my friend goes to Ireland, that doesn't mean he's know as much as you about it, because you talk to the ambassadors of these places. Apparently, that's so awesome.
Well, I apologize for being a little late. So I am the world's biggest fan of the Annie Frey Show because you guys really are interested in just informing people and letting them decide for themselves. And that, to me, is the essence of what good public media should do. So I've always been a huge fan of what you guys do.
Well, I really appreciate that coming from you. We are not public media, though. We are not under threat of defunding. We are fine. We're doing fine, but I appreciate that. Jim Carafano of Heritage.
You know why you're good media? Because
why?
You're not public funded. That's exactly right.
That's exactly right. Well, thanks for calling in, even if it was a little later than expected. I just love talking to you, so thanks.
All right. Thanks for having me. Bye-bye.
All right. Thanks, Jim. Jim Carafano of the Heritage Foundation. I never read his title because it's so long, but here I'm going to do it just for the podcast. Jim Carafano, Senior Counselor to the President and E.W. Richardson Fellow for International Engagement at the Heritage Foundation. There you go.
That's the title.
That's the title. All right, we'll take a short break, and maybe we'll hit this RFK stuff as I was kind of setting up at the beginning of the segment there. Yep, that's what we'll do on the other side of this break. Stick around.
Annie's out, Ryan and Brad are in. This is the Mannie Frey Show. The Annie Frey Show is streaming online. Watch us live on YouTube and subscribe.
Okay, it's probably past time that you call Point Pest Control because you've got pests around your house. Mosquitoes outside, ants inside, whatever the problem is. For us, it was certainly spiders. Point Pest Control is there to guide you through a solution. 636-798-0023. That's 636-798-0023. Online at pointpestcontrol.com. For mosquitoes, make sure that you are getting rid of those nasty critters when they are sabotaging your outdoor experience, when you are trying to have a party and sit on the porch or the deck or maybe hang out at the pool. You can call Point Pest Control and they can come pre-treat for your event so that you don't have to deal with mosquitoes killing the party. 636-798-0023. Also, if you ever see any evidence of termite damage, they can help you with that as well. They can assess the situation and get you to a fast solution quickly. 636-798-0023. Mention Annie and get an extra 10% discount on the top of any specials online at pointpestcontrol.com.
What's your favorite four-letter word? Chances are you've said it more than a few times dealing with this crazy world we live in. But at Compass Retirement Solutions, our four-letter word of choice is hope. Hope for a better tomorrow. And hope that your retirement plans don't take a back seat. You've watched inflation soar, and maybe your retirement future feels a little uncertain right now. But all hope is not lost. Find out exactly how much risk you're still taking with your investments. Find out how you may be able to save big on taxes. And find out how having a written retirement plan just might give you the hope you've been looking for. Call today to set up a meeting. 314-373-1598. That's 314-373-1598. Compass Retirement Solutions. 314-373-1598. Firm offers insurance services but does not provide tax advice. Investments and services offered through Compass Retirement Group, a registered investment advisory firm in Missouri and Illinois. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal.
If you owe the IRS, you have a legal issue, and you need the Lance Drury Law Firm. We'll protect your rights. Log on at lancedrurylaw.com or call us toll-free at 888-367-6512.
Taco to go, taco to, and a big Q. Taco to go, taco to go. Quick Trip Taco just $2.99. Comes with a big Q, they steal so fine. Brisket breakfast, so much to choose for $2.99. You really can't lose. Taco to go, taco to. This deal's legit. Taco to go, taco. Only at Quick Trip. Taco to go, taco to go, taco to go. $2.99 to go.
Today's YouTube
Come
live
on,
chat
tacos
poll.
to go.
That sounds great.
It's a banger.
Today's YouTube live chat poll, can California be saved, yes or no? We want to know what you think on that. Are we doing it again, Ethan?
Of course we're doing it
Oh,
again.
we're doing it again. Oh, good.
I love this. It's so cute.
Can California be saved, yes or no? Jump on Annie's YouTube page, vote in the live stream, and leave us a comment telling us why you voted the way you voted. This,
Jerry?
No, gosh.
This
Terrible.
time check is sponsored. All right, let's do it.
Yep.
This
time
check
is
sponsored
by
Jerry
Kelly
Heating
and
Air
Conditioning.
The time is 1:49.
It's time for a $98 AC tune-up.
The Freedom 13 remembers the heroes that made the ultimate sacrifice by supporting the veterans still with us. You can make a difference with just $13 a month. It's June for Jared in honor of Lance Corporal Jared Schmitz. Learn more at 971talk.com/talkinaction.
I'm gonna fight them all.
Annie's out, Ryan and Brad are in. This is the Mannie Fry Show.
They're gonna rip it off.
This, Jerry. No, this time check. He skipped 2 words.
Yeah.
Is sponsored. No, is sponsored by Jerry.
Yeah,
Kelly.
a bunch.
He
This
did terrible.
Jerry.
He just went
Jerry.
Yeah, what? What are you doing, Ethan? You're not invited in here anymore.
Well, maybe later.
Well, okay, the next segment he'll be here because it's his friend is going to tell the sleepwalking story. You got to come back at 2. And also, we might take some calls if we have time. We're going to take at least one call because this guy that is friends with Ethan has this amazing sleepwalking story that we've not heard yet, and I just say it. Let's just do it.
Yeah.
I've never heard it. We're going to hear it live. If it sucks, then it's Ethan's fault. So be here for that. I said I was going to mention this RFK stuff. You know, RFK is going to fire all the members of the CDC's Vaccine Advisory Committee. I brought up his statement on it because I think it's important. He says, today, we are taking a bold step in restoring public trust. And I'm jumping in the middle here a little bit because I don't want to read the entire thing. But that's the theme up until this point in the statement, that he's talking about people just don't trust us anymore. And that's good to acknowledge. Thank you. Today, he says, we are taking a bold step in restoring public trust by totally reconstituting the Advisory Committee for Immunization Practices, ACIP. we are retiring. Just say firing, dude. We are retiring the 17 current members of the committee, some of whom were last-minute appointees of the Biden administration. Without removing the current members, the current Trump administration would not have been able to appoint a majority of new members until 2028. I'm not sure why that is. He doesn't come out and say like what the protocols are, but apparently they needed to do this quickly or else they'd get locked in or something like that. The ACIP evaluates the safety, efficacy, and clinical need of the nation's vaccines and passes its findings on to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. The committee has been plagued with persistent conflicts of interest and has become little more than a rubber stamp for any vaccine. You want proof? I'm saying that, not him. He says it has never recommended against a vaccine.
Wow.
The Advisory Committee for Immunization Practices, 17 members, has never recommended against a vaccine, even those later withdrawn for safety reasons. So even ones that have proven after they rubber stamped it that they were harmful to somebody, they've still never recommended against those. It has failed to scrutinize vaccine products given to babies and pregnant women. To make matters worse, the groups that inform ACIP meet behind closed doors, violating the legal and ethical principle of transparency crucial to maintaining, again, public trust. In 2000, he cites, the House issued the results of an investigation of ACIP and another vaccine advisory committee under the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, the Vaccines and Related Biological Products Advisory Committee. It found that enforcement of its conflict of interest rules was weak to non-existent. It's a revolving door. We all knew that. Committee members regularly participated in deliberations and advocated products in which they had a financial stake. The CDC issued conflict of interest waivers to every committee member. 4 out of 8 ACIP members who voted in 1997 on guidelines for the RotaShield vaccine, subsequently withdrawn because of severe adverse effects, had financial ties to pharmaceutical companies developing other rotavirus vaccines. A 2009 HHS Inspector General report echoed these findings. So this is ongoing, guys. This has been an issue for a long time, that the people that were regulating them had deep financial ties to getting them across the line.
That's enough. That's enough for me to disqualify them.
Thank you. So he's fired all of them and is starting over, and that's pretty much that's why we put him there, isn't it? This is why we elected Donald Trump and thereby RFK to head up HHS.
Well, it's everything that they said whenever, while you were on vacation, we had Dr. J. Bhattacharya on, and one of the things he talked about was the gold standard of science. And for people to lose their minds over this, they're not understanding how science was being ignored. Allow people to go in there and actually try these things, make the trials, do the things, so that you know what you're recommending is, in fact, safe.
So you just heard the statement. Here is it the president of Brown, or who is this guy?
He is the dean of medicine
at Brown. So this is what you're going to hear in the mainstream media about this, if you hear anything at all.
What he said in his op-ed was a series of nonsense about a group of individuals, experts, as we heard in that report, who shape what vaccines, if any, are going to be available to the American people. So obviously this is very concerning. We'll have to see who he appoints next, but this is a step in the wrong direction.
Look, he just outlined in this very short statement multiple reports over multiple administrations over multiple years that said these conflict of interest rules are being completely ignored. 2000, 1997, 2009, all over the place. It says that few committee members completed full conflict of interest forms at all. 97% of them had omissions, which means they were not filling them out on purpose because they knew there was a conflict of interest. The CDC took no significant action to remedy the omissions. This is the purpose of having these agencies, is that they regulate for the public good, not for themselves or for the pharmaceutical companies.
They're supposed to be your defense for you.
And this is a return to that. These are good things that are happening. Let's celebrate them. All right, coming up at 2 o'clock, so right around the corner here, stick around. We're going to hear this story about sleepwalking that none of us have heard yet.
Air Comfort Service wants to make sure that everybody in the area knows that they are here with you as people are recovering from storms. There's so much storm damage around the listening audience area here. Air Comfort Service wants to do something to help. My friends at Air Comfort Service want to draw attention to your AC unit. Storms can do a lot of damage to an air conditioner. There are obvious problems like wind damage, power outages, falling trees, even hail can become a major problem. Hail can bend coil fins and restrict airflow, which will keep your air conditioner from running properly. 314-513-0091. That's the number to call the expert technicians at Air Comfort Service. Again, 314-513-0091. Have those expert technicians come out and assess the damage at your home so that you have the information you need to potentially file an insurance claim. They know what they're talking about. They know what to look for, and they will help you prevent lingering issues later on this summer. 314-513-0091, aircomfortservice.com/storm.
Have you been notified that your subsidy for Obamacare health insurance is going away? Well, you can leave now while you're still healthy and qualify for much better individual plans. Greg Hammonds at greghammonds.com has been helping people get affordable health insurance with great coverage for over 35 years. Greg offers private health insurance plans that are not on the ACA marketplace. You can pick your doctors. For most claims, you won't even pay a deductible, and they're 30 to 60% lower cost than Obamacare. One more thing, there's no tax penalty at the end of the year. Greg even has plans that are guaranteed acceptance. If you pay for your own health insurance, you're uninsured, you're on COBRA, or your employer coverage is just too expensive, call Greg at 314-794-7784. That's 314-794-7784. Or go to greghammonds.com. That's greghammonds.com. He can custom design a plan by you, not the government.
Hi, this is Tammy Kershaw with Retirement Advisory Group.
Hi, I'm Bob Kershaw. As a family business, we are committed to protecting your retirement, whether you're nearing retirement or already retired. What if it were possible to protect you from market downturns without having to make an emotional decision to buy or sell? What if you could take advantage of a strategy that would automatically take you out of harm's way during the bad years and position you for the growth opportunity during the good years?
The secret is linking safely to the market without putting your principal at risk. By linking to the market instead of owning the market, you can participate safely on autopilot and lock in your gains without creating a taxable event. Go online to retirementkey.com for a no-obligation retirement review, and we'll teach you the strategy that has helped our clients retire with confidence for the past 39 years. And just for coming in, you'll get a copy of our latest edition book, Your Key to a Worry-Free Retirement. So go online to retirementkey.com. That's retirementkey.com.
KFTK FM Florissant from the Kaufman Townsley St. Louis's Injury Lawyers Studio. Call 314-500-5000.
That's 314-500-5000.
All on the free Odyssey app.
The mayor of L.A. wants a call with the president. I'm Lisa Brady, Fox News. After 4 days of protests that turned violent over immigration raids.
I do not believe that individuals that commit vandalism and violence in our city really are in support of immigrants. They have another agenda. If you support immigrants and the rights of immigrants to be in our city, you would not be tearing the city apart.
But Mayor Karen Bass also says fear and uncertainty are fueling protests and that she wants to tell President Trump to stop the raids that began Friday. The Trump administration says ICE agents are enforcing the law and that people being arrested have deportation orders. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth defending the deployment of National Guard members and Marines as protection for federal agents during a House hearing today.
We believe that ICE, which is a federal law enforcement agency, has the right to safely conduct operations.
The California governor accuses the president of using Marines as political pawns. House Democratic Caucus Chair Pete Aguilar also suggesting it's an attempted distraction from the economy and the budget bill.
This isn't about law and order or protecting public safety. Donald Trump wants conflict and violence.
President Trump telling reporters,
all I want is safety. I just want a safe area. Los Angeles was under siege until we got there.
He also says there are paid insurrectionists involved, but he has not said whether he'll invoke the Insurrection Act. The president just arriving at Fort Bragg in North Carolina to kick off celebrations for the Army's 250th anniversary ahead of a parade this weekend. Federal safety investigators just announcing a 3-day hearing into the deadly January collision between a Black Hawk helicopter and a passenger jet near Reagan National Airport. The NTSB's investigative hearing will begin July July 30th. Earlier, the nominee for FAA director telling lawmakers there were 85 near-miss incidents at Reagan since 2021. America is listening to Fox News.
The doctor's office that accidentally mixed up your files has your social security number. The power company that mistakenly cut your service has your payment info. And the hotel that lost your reservation has your passport number. You need LifeLock because your personal info is in endless places that can expose you to identity thieves. LifeLock monitors hundreds of millions of data points every second. If your identity is stolen, we'll fix it, guaranteed or your money back. Save up to 40% with promo code NEWS at LifeLock.com. Terms apply.
This is Joe Cordell of Cordell & Cordell. Cordell & Cordell is the largest family law firm in the country with over 35 years of helping clients navigate divorce. That does give us certain advantages, for example, in experience and resources. But being big doesn't mean less personal or less local. Our attorneys live and work in your community, and as neighbors, they understand the challenges your families face. Cordell & Cordell, a partner you can count on.
The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely upon advertisements. 600 Kelwood, St. Louis. CordellCordell.com.
Air Comfort Service, heating, cooling, and insulation. Weather.
Chief Meteorologist Dave Murray.
The dry pattern continues. Delightful going through our Tuesday afternoon. Sunshine and 83 for the high. We will take it. Clear skies. Fantastic evening again. 62 for the overnight low. Wednesday sunny. Warm it up to 89 degrees. We still have not hit 90 plus this year. May have a shot at it on Wednesday. Thursday mostly sunny. 87. This is 97.1 FM Talk. Chief Meteorologist Dave Murray.
The doctor's office that accidentally mixed up your files has your social security number. The power company that mistakenly cut your service has your payment info. And the hotel that lost your reservation has your passport number. You need LifeLock because your personal info is in endless places that can expose you to identity thieves. LifeLock monitors hundreds of millions of data points every second. If your identity is stolen, we'll fix it, guaranteed or your money back. Save up to 40% with promo code NEWS at LifeLock.com. Terms apply.
Sometimes I struggle to get to sleep. My body stopped for the day, but my mind is still running. So I take ZQuil.
ZQuil, the world's #1 sleep aid brand, has a range of non-habit-forming products to fit you and your family's needs. Invest in a great night's sleep for the best you tomorrow.
I'm awake and ready to take on anything.
Better days start with ZQuil nights. Explore our products at ZQuil.com.
Have you ever had a wedding reception in your yard or scheduled a party, birthday party or whatever kind of party at your house, and during the party or a couple, 3 hours before, notice your air conditioner is not working and it is the hottest day of the year? Or have you come home from a vacation and your house is baking? My experience has been that's when it will break. It just happens that way. So if that does happen to you, or say, again, you don't need to have a party or you don't need to be baked. But if your air conditioner breaks and you need to get the cold air back in your house, call me, Bart Inman. One easy number in Missouri and Illinois. That is 314-293-2600. Again, the easiest of numbers, 314-293-2600, or on the internet, bartinman.com. That's Bart with a B, Inman with an I.com.
Hey guys, it's Mark Reardon. If you're struggling with low energy, performance issues, or weight gain, Game Day Men's Health has got you covered with testosterone therapy, ED treatments, and more in all of a relaxed man cave environment. At Game Day, you'll get a free testosterone test and consultation, all in just 1 hour. Game Day is the premier men's health clinic with locations in Chesterfield, O'Fallon, Missouri, and Glen Carbon, Illinois. Visit GameDayMen'sHealth.com. That's GameDayMen'sHealth.com. Get back in the game with Game Day Men's Health.
Brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Progressive can help you protect your home, auto, boat, motorcycle, ATV, and RV, and more. And if something wasn't mentioned that you had in mind, find out if it can be covered at Progressive.com or 1-800-PROGRESSIVE, because it probably can be.
That is exactly what I needed to hear.
Thank God someone here knows what they're talking about.
That's us. That's right. Gotta love this American ride.
All right, you need to take the time and get the full picture.
Oh yeah, it is the moment you have been waiting for.
Don't get me wrong. I love the ladies. I mean, they rev my engine, but they don't belong in the newsroom.
Annie's out. Ryan and Brad are in.
Goodness sake, kid. Keep your voice down. Your father's listening to the radio.
This is the Mannie Frey Show.
This is the Mannie Frey Show. This is Ryan Wiggins, Brad Range, Ethan Hannaford going to join us for this segment. And actually, this whole thing is kind of based on something that Ethan did this morning. We were sitting in my office, just kind of going over clips and show stuff that happens before a show, probably at about 11 o'clock. And Ethan walks in. He's like, "Oh man, you got to hear this story. It's a really funny story." And he starts to tell us about his friend, who I think the friend sleepwalks.
Yeah, apparently.
And he's like, "Oh, listen to it," and he starts to set it up. And I'm like, "Dude, is this a really good story? Like, does it have a good payoff?" And he goes, "Yes." And I'm like, "Then just hold it for 2 o'clock." And so we have, and in fact, he has waited until now to even call the friend. So what's your friend's name before we go here?
My friend is Brandon.
Okay. Brandon, can we tell who Brandon is, or do you want to remain anonymous?
Oh, yeah. So Brandon actually is the co-host of my podcast, The Loose Sports Talk with me. And we call him actually on there Brandon Big Papi Gallegos. That's just it turned into that. He's lost some weight, but at one point, Big Papi had a reason behind its name. Now he's a skinny queen, but Brandon does the podcast with me, and this was a story that was very on par for him because he's a funny guy. Kind of crazy stuff happens to him all the time, but this was one of the crazier things he's ever told me.
Before we go to Brandon here, is this just, am I walking into an ad for your podcast? Is that what this is?
I give up, yes.
Okay. As long as we know. Brandon, welcome to the Annie Frey Show, the Mannie Frey Show.
Yeah. Before I even get started, I just want to announce, we do the Loose Sports Talk. I'm just kidding.
Look, that's my fault.
Ethan has really set me up here. If this isn't one of the top 5 stories you've ever heard, it's going to be a big letdown. So, Ethan, thanks a lot for setting me up.
Of course.
What a great best friend.
Of course.
No, I'm excited to be on. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah. So, Brandon, this story is about you, right?
Yeah, that is correct. Yeah. So if you don't mind, I'll get into it here. So it starts off a little morbid, but stick with me. Okay. So I have a dear friend. He's in his 60s. His mother passed away. So they have a funeral this morning. Okay. And his family's from Texas, Illinois, all over the country. Right. So we offered to host my friend's nephews. Okay. They're in their mid to late 20s, 2 younger men, similar age to me. Right.
Okay.
So that's the scene, okay? And last night, they arrived at around 11 o'clock, okay? And me and my wife, Caroline, we're young folks, but we're old souls, okay? We like the news, we like 97.1, and we like going to bed at 9 p.m. We like going to bed at 9 p.m., okay? So I didn't see them come in last night. They just we left the door unlocked. They came in and hit the hay. So fast forward with me now to about 4 a.m. Okay, I'm never awake at this time. For those that are, good for them. I am not. I'm in a deep sleep at this point.
So this is last night. You're breaking this here on the Annie Frey Show.
You're darn right.
Okay.
And and so about 4 a.m., I hear just a slow creak of the door, ones that you just hear from the movies, and you hope they stay in the movies, not in your house.
Mm-hmm.
And I slowly kind of open my eyes. My door to my bedroom's far away from our bed, and I just see the silhouette of a man, okay, because our hallway light is on.
Uh-oh.
And I'm like, immediately, I am like, just start screaming at him. And here's the thing. I consider myself a follower of Jesus, but in that moment, I don't know if I was. Explicits were flying. He wakes up.
Now, wait a minute. Before we move past this moment.
Sure.
Let's dwell on this. There's just a silhouette of a man standing in your doorway at 4 a.m. when you had been asleep. You decide, I'm just going to start cussing at this guy. Is this to scare him? To get him to go away? Like, you don't know who it is. Are you trying to make yourself look big, like if a lion were approaching?
Sure. Yeah, so I'm small in stature, okay? If you were to see me in person, I'm about 5'8",
That's
maybe
not short.
That's way bigger than Ryan.
No, that's not true. I'm 5'9". I'm 5'9.5".
Aren't we all, brother? Aren't we all? So I think what I proved to my wife was I will protect our home in word and not action. I think what was going through my brain, and so I just start screaming at him. And what I later realized was when I started yelling at him was when he woke up.
Okay.
So when he was standing in my doorway, he was completely asleep. And he had walked into my room. And when I started screaming explicits, he then realized where he was and fell to the ground. And when he saw this, short man of 5'9.5" running after him, he fell to the floor. And
wait, you're running after him now?
Yeah. So I started with the explicits. And then
Okay.
I got out of bed and started running after him, lunged at him.
Did you have anything more than your fist, or did you have a weapon?
Zero weapons were on me
Okay.
besides my left and right arm, and those aren't really weapons. You don't need any sort of permit.
Because you described like a chase happening, but I'm picturing this being more like 3-4 steps. Is that right?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. It's 3-4 lunges.
Okay.
I would say.
Okay.
Yeah, 3 or 4 lunges. He then proceeds to wake up, falls backwards.
Like
he
Neo?
starts. Correct. Yeah. Yep. Exactly. Could have said it better myself. Okay. He starts throwing out some explicits. Again, we both consider ourselves religious men, but at 4 a.m. when we were both dead asleep, I think we teed it high and let it fly. And so that is kind of the moral of the story. The best part is I really don't have an end because I have not seen this man since. We both went back to bed, and then I left early this morning for work, and we have not talked since. So he's staying the night tonight as well.
Brandon, do you plan on bringing it up? Or are you just going to kind of, hey, we're going to have some pork chops tonight and everything's cool?
I think we're going to step right into it.
Okay.
I think I'm going to dap him up, see how he's doing. Maybe apologize, have a good laugh. But, my wife suggested that was her first thing was like, what do we say? Like, is this guy going to come back tonight? And I just said, I don't know. I just had to, as the husband of the home, I had to protect you by screaming at him.
Do you think that sleepwalking? Now, I got to ask, how did it end? Like, did you end up on top of this man, or
So he falls backwards. I slam the door shut. In a courageous move, I slammed the door shut, and we just proceeded to talk through the door for a couple seconds. And he said something like, "Hey, man, I wasn't awake," and I said, "Yeah, neither was I."
But that's not true.
I just kind of said, "All right, man, have a good night," and then that was it.
So since we're still kind of in limbo here, we're still waiting on an end.
Sure.
You probably need to call in tomorrow, like at 12:05, and talk to Annie about this.
Yeah, absolutely, that would be great.
She's just getting back from vacation. I think that's probably where we should start the show. But here's a question for you. Now that you've seen this in action, would it be a good excuse to do anything you want in somebody's house and then just be like, oh shoot, I didn't realize I was making that big of a sandwich at 3 a.m. I was asleep. Could you just use it for anything?
Now that I think of it, that's a great idea when Ethan has the boys over. That is a phenomenal idea. I think that's what I'll go ahead and do. Like, I didn't know I was eating all your food, Ethan. I was just sleepwalking. Thanks for having me over.
At least you have an excuse. At least you have an excuse now, because normally he just walks in and he just starts eating it.
That's true. That's true. That's true.
Well, Brandon, that's a great story, and I think that we would like to, in whatever way possible, whether that's through a message or through the chat or whatever, let us know how the conversation goes tonight.
I just love it. I love that he's talking to us first, and now he's going to talk to the guy.
This is like breaking news.
Maybe you just play this for the guy.
Yes. Do I tell? Maybe I need your guys' advice. Do I tell him I talked with a radio station before I went to him?
I think you lead with that.
I think so too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
let him know all of
advice.
St. Louis has heard the story, and so that we should probably air this thing out.
Yeah. And they're waiting for a conclusion.
Okay, deal. I will do that. Sounds good, guys.
All right, thanks, Brandon. You want to plug the podcast one more time or what?
Oh yeah. You can find us on anywhere you get your podcast, Apple Podcast, YouTube. Loose Sports Talk podcast comes out every Friday.
Cool. Thanks, Brandon.
All
right, I did that for you, Ethan.
Which part?
The part at the very end.
Oh, that's very kind of you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I mean, it's just the kind of thing that you want to remind people every now and then that you've got 2 books. And one of them's a novel called The Life of Human, and one of them's a comedy book that you can read really in 10 minutes, 15 minutes, called The Grocery List, Food for Thought. You know, it's the kind of thing that you just do.
I have those books?
I'm just saying hypothetically, if you did, that was the kind of thing.
That's the kind of thing
that you would do.
Gotcha.
Have you ever sleepwalked?
Not in a long time that I can recall, but I do remember at a younger age being woken up like randomly in my basement, or like I don't know if I was ever caught outside. I think that I had like an uncle or something that was caught outside a couple of times. But one time I had an uncle that was caught chasing the cat outside. There was no cat around his front yard. I want to say that, well, most dudes, like some dudes sleep in their boxers. I'm pretty sure he was just running around the front yard in his boxers in the middle of the night.
But did he look like he was chasing something, or was he just running?
He's like leaning over, like trying to chase, like looking like he's trying to grab a cat. But there was nothing there.
If I'm not mistaken, that looks like Uncle Lou out in the front yard in his boxers chasing a cat. But there's no cat.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, that's something you'd probably pretty typically see on the streets of St. Louis in that night.
So, what was this, in the downtown?
Yeah,
you guys just gotten done with the arch
No,
tour?
I'm saying that this is something you would probably see downtown typically. No, this was not downtown.
Okay.
No, I don't have anything crazy outside of just being woken up like, hey, you're sitting on the floor in the basement. Like, what are you doing? Nothing crazy outside of that. How about you?
I used to, I think there's an age, I was talking about this with Brad. I think there's an age at which kids are the most likely to sleepwalk, because it was about 8 years old for me, maybe a little bit younger than that. And then my son has done it a little bit when he was 8 to 10. He's kind of stopped now because he's a little bit older than that, not much. But I remember, weird because you're not supposed to remember when you're sleeping, but I remember standing in my room facing the door and just waiting. And I'm like, what am I don't know what I was waiting for, but I don't know how long I had been waiting there. But I'm just standing, looking at the door, waiting for somebody to walk by the door. And then eventually my dad wakes up and goes to the bathroom, and he had to walk past my door, and he went, whoa, because there's his son just standing in his room facing the door, like in a crouch, like ready position.
Triple threat position.
Yeah. He's like, what are you doing? And I was like, I'm waiting, or something like that. And he goes, go to bed. I'm like, okay. And that was it. And then my son, this is probably a year ago, me and my wife are laying there. It's probably 11. We're finishing up watching whatever movie we were watching after the kids had gone to bed. And he just walks in, my son. And, of course, when you're a little kid, he's just wearing his little boxers. He's got no shirt and pants on. He's just wearing boxers. And he just walks in, and he just stands there for a second. And we're like, everything okay? And he goes, yeah. I can't remember the exact phrase he said, but it was something to the effect of like, Petunia's going to bloom late this year.
Your son said this?
No, it wasn't that, but it was something like that. Like something that an adult would say.
Yeah.
And you're like, what? and then he just sits down Indian style, like on the floor. And we're like, what are you doing? I mean, we didn't know he was sleeping. He just walks in and says, yeah, going to be a late dew this year, whatever it was, high humidity, and then sits down, and we're like, you go back to bed, okay, and he did. That was it. And it's kind of a long walk, so he had to come all the way down and then tell us that, sit down, and then he had to go all the way back up, and he was fine.
Brad?
Well, yeah. Well, I don't sleepwalk, but my siblings did. And there's 2 stories. One was my sister, I woke up to the sound of scratching on carpet, like hard scratching. And my sister was in the corner of our room scratching in the corner like she was digging like a dog.
Whoa. On the floor?
On the floor. 2 hands, pulling toward her, digging
heck
underneath.
no. That's horrifying.
Yeah. I was like, what are you doing? And she's like, I have to get the money. I was like, what are you talking about? Grandma got one bag and there's another bag and I have to get the money. I was like, get out of my room. And she started like getting angry and violent. And then my mom came in because she heard the commotion and she's like, Rachel, just
Your
go
mom
back to
came in and
bed.
was like, where's the money?
Yeah, give me the money.
No, let your sister find the money.
Yeah. And so then, they, the whole, like you guys both said, oh, go back to bed. And that was good.
That was it.
That's all it took. Okay.
That's something that's some Conjuring type stuff right there, right? Where you see the scratching on the floor. It's like,
her head turns all the way around.
Yeah.
Leave me alone.
the money.
Wow.
The other one was I woke up and my other sibling was walking down the hallway, went into my sister's room, was in there for maybe 3 minutes, and then walked out and then down toward the bathroom. And I was like, what on earth was he doing? So I get up and I walk down the hallway. And as I'm closing onto the door, I hear the sound of water pouring onto carpet.
Uh-oh.
Well,
was it water?
It was not water. He had pulled her drawer open and thought that was the toilet.
I did that one time with the trash can in my sleep. I do remember that.
I was here at work. Everybody's like, what the heck?
It was a long night, okay?
It wasn't nighttime.
No,
kid, everybody.
I worked, or I had to work through the night, and because of that, I was tired at work the next day.
Just don't poop in the trash can.
I didn't poop. I peed.
What's the real story? Are you gonna tell it?
No, I mean, I mean, you made it in. You're the one that made it into this big thing. All I said was that I accidentally thought that the trash can was the toilet when I had to pee in the middle of the night.
How old were you?
Probably the same age as your son was there.
There's an age there that is kind of prone to that.
Oh, it was a thing.
Never looked it up, but I've always heard people tell stories at about that age, 7 to 10, somewhere in there.
Yep.
All right, I'm gonna.
Brandon is not between 8 and 10.
Well, he wasn't the one sleepwalking.
It was his friend, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I guess that.
Neither was the nephew.
If you're prone to sleepwalking, you're staying over at somebody's house. Aren't you kind of?
You would think you'd give a heads up.
You kind of are supposed to say something ahead of time, probably. I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess we'll hear back tomorrow.
I guess so.
I'm gonna play it fast and loose here. If you have a good sleepwalking story, we're gonna open the phones. And I don't know if you will. We're just going to open it, and cool if you do. 314-241-9797. 314-241-9797. And let us know. I mean, we'll just go with it, all right? Here we go.
I saw my last dream roll out around me.
Annie's out, Ryan and Brad are in. This is the Mannie Frey Show. Talk lines are open now at 314-241-9797 or 866-455-9797.
For that special person in your life, you need to visit the Diamond Shop. They're located in Clayton, but did you know that the Diamond Shop has been helping families find the perfect timeless jewelry right here in St. Louis since 1910. That longevity of shopping, essentially local, shopping with a family that cares about your family, getting to know your family, helping multiple people in your family. They do it with beautiful, timeless pieces and wonderful, respectful customer service. Do not be intimidated when you walk into the Diamond Shop. You can leave all of that, check that at the door. You're going to walk in. Everything sparkles so beautifully. And then they are constantly running great, awesome sales to make sure that they meet the mark of the month. Right now, we're probably looking at Father's Day gifts, possibly looking at watches, maybe a tie restraint. I had a tie restraint made for my husband from the Diamond Shop. He loves it. He doesn't have to stick a pin in his silk ties any longer. You go to the Diamond Shop, they're going to take care of you. Find them online at thediamondshop.net.
I'm Emma Greed, and I've spent the last 20 years building, running, and investing in some incredible businesses. The more success I've had, the more people started coming to me with questions. How do you start a business? How do you raise money? How do I bounce back from failure? On my new podcast, Aspire with Emma Greed, I'll be answering these questions and more through weekly conversations with the smartest minds out there. Listen to and follow Aspire with Emma Greed, an Odyssey podcast available now, wherever you get your podcasts.
I'm John Morgan of Morgan & Morgan. One question I'm always asked is, how did you become the largest injury firm in the world with over 1,000 attorneys and $25 billion in verdicts and settlements? One way was our financial strength. Medical malpractice is the third leading cause of death in America. To prosecute a typical case costs up to $250,000 in case cost. We advance them all. Product liability cases can have similar costs with an army of lawyers on the other side. Automobile insurance companies have the resources to fight. Guess what? So do we. Many law firms simply may not have the financial firepower to work up your case the way you deserve. And we don't charge by the hour. No recovery, no fee. If you have a question about your case or wish to become a client, go to forthepeople.com on your mobile device or computer. 24/7. It's that easy. Morgan & Morgan. Injured? Dial pound law or visit forthepeople.com for an office near you.
Hey, it's Mark Reardon, and I've been thinking about how big life changes like moving can feel a little overwhelming. But then I visited New Perspective in Weldon Spring, and let me tell you, it changed my view. It might change yours as well. It's a brand new senior living community in Weldon Spring where older adults can thrive, not just reside. They've thought about everything. At New Perspective, your loved one will enjoy chef-prepared meals, activities, state-of-the-art technology, and a welcoming community. Check out npseniorliving.com and schedule a tour today. New Perspective, a friendlier approach to senior living.
You're listening to the Annie Frey Show live from the Air Comfort Service Heating, Cooling, and Insulation Studio. Air Comfort Service is celebrating 55 years of residential and commercial service, maintenance, and installation of heating and cooling systems. Get in your comfort zone. Visit aircomfortservice.com.
Talk lines are open now at 314-241-9797 or 866-455-9797. Annie's out, Ryan and Brad are in. This is the Mannie Frey Show.
We're talking about sleepwalking because Brandon, who is Ethan's friend, had a great story and was willing to call in and tell that in the last segment. So we opened up the phone lines to you and said, do you have a great sleepwalking story? We'll just take them in order here. Jason called in first from Illinois. Jason, what's your story, man?
What's up, buddy? So I'm a paramedic, and I have woken up twice. One time doing very on my wife.
Wait. You broke up there. You broke up at the key part. You're a paramedic, and you woke up doing what?
Very effective CPR on my wife. She was not appreciative. And then
was your wife asleep?
Back to her.
Wait, before you move on, was your wife okay with this?
Oh, no, she was not happy.
She wasn't happy. That's a great excuse, isn't it? You just be like, sorry, I was asleep. I didn't know.
Seriously, she woke me up. She goes, what are you doing? I was like, CPR. She goes, on me. I was like, oh, my God.
Okay, that's the first one. What's the second one?
The other time, I was trauma packaging her. I was putting her in a seat collar and on a backboard, and yeah.
This is all toward your wife.
Yes, those times I am not safe to sleep with.
All right, Jason, thanks for letting us know.
At least she's in good hands.
I mean, I guess. Unless he's like strangling her. Shoot, wait, I'm breathing fine.
Why would he do that as an EMT?
Collar on her while she's sleeping.
Rolling her up on the backboard.
We're going to get you out of here.
Put her on the stretcher.
I mean, yeah, I guess if it's any profession, you'd be like, okay, well, I guess that's good. At least you're not like a carpenter. You know?
Hold on, honey, gonna get the tools out.
No, I'm getting nailed. As I said, let's just go in order. Andrew from St. Charles. Hi, Andrew.
Hey, how we doing, guys?
Good. Have you ever sleepwalked?
Yeah, tons of times. I gained 80 pounds in 1 year because I used to sleepwalk and cook in the middle of the night.
Wait. Are we to believe that you're making full meals asleep?
I used to make 2 tuna fish sandwiches each night and not know it. My mom caught me one night smoking a cigarette in the kitchen, which we're not allowed to do in our house. Not only toasting bread, getting relish and mayo out, sriracha. She said it was the best damn tuna fish she's ever had. So pretty good. So, yeah, there's my story for you.
This is a little much. I mean, it's a little bit of a suspension of disbelief to think you go through all of that and you're standing there with a cigarette and a Stag magazine and you're like, oh, sorry, I'm asleep, Mom.
No, it's true. I have no recollection of it. We got it fixed, and I've lost 80 pounds. So, hey, there you go.
It sounds a little bit similar to what we just recommended Brandon do to me. So in the last segment, so I'm a little suspicious. That is hilarious.
Andrew, thanks for the call.
Yes, sir.
I'm telling you what. Anybody listening right now is probably thinking the same thing I am, which is, man, I wish I did that because it would be easy to lose weight. He lost 80 pounds by just staying in bed.
I have no idea why I'm gaining weight. You're eating in your sleep.
Stop buying me tuna, Mom. Rick is next up from Ladue. Rick, have you sleepwalked before?
Rick from Ladue?
Yes, Rick, hello.
No, it's Rick from Eureka.
Rick from Eureka. Sorry, it was labeled wrong.
Yeah, so I do have one when I was a kid. My dad was out of town, and my mom was sitting on the couch, and I was laying next to her, sleeping, and she was watching a scary movie, and all of a sudden, like she told me this story, but all of a sudden, she said I jump up and I crawl on all fours and go down the hallway, and
Oh
she's
my
like,
gosh.
what the heck? And then I come peek around on all fours, and she's like, what? I was like, did you see him? Did you see him come in?
Nope.
Yeah, she thought she was like so intense into this movie that she didn't see somebody come walking in the house.
Wait a minute. So you had fallen asleep during the movie?
Yeah.
And so you weren't trying to pull a prank on her. You
Nope.
just started crawling around on all fours trying to find somebody like you were a dog?
No, like frantically getting away. I
Oh,
was
you were
trying to hide
running
from this
away.
person. Yeah, but like on all fours, like, yeah.
Is this
probably about 7 years old?
Oh, you were sad. I was going to say, is this the only time this has ever happened to you? Okay. So you're watching.
No, I've had other ones, like I guess Jason who called about his wife. One time I woke up, I got in a fight in my dream. Well, I went to break the guy's fingers. Well, it was actually my wife's fingers, and I popped her fingers.
Oh, my
and that's when I
gosh.
woke up.
Wow. How old were you when that happened?
That was probably about 10 years ago.
So none between
40,
7.
I'm 42 now, so I was probably 32 years old.
Are those the two incidents, or is this pretty common?
It was pretty common when I was younger, but not in my adulthood.
Wow. Rick, thanks for the call, man. Appreciate it.
Hey, no problem.
Let's go to Keith from St. Charles. Keith, we have a note here that says hopefully we can hear you well. Keith, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we'll try to. Can you tell your story of sleepwalking?
Okay, so coincidentally, I was a paramedic firefighter. I'm retired now. And when I was in the Air Force, active duty, I went to basic training or basic fire school in Chanute Air Force Base in 1982. So all day we were working drills. We were doing what we call laying hose. Fire truck would pull up to the hydrant. I'd grab off the hose off the back and run to the hydrant and wrap it. And they'd drive on a distance to a little bit later, and then they'd hook the hose to the fire truck, and then that was your time. So we were doing that over and over again for time, as fast as you can. And even the repacking the truck was stressful, got to get it done quick. So over and over again. Since I was a prior service airman, I got to stay in the hotel instead of with all the other people, and it's a co-ed hotel. My room, I had one room.
Did you say co-ed?
Yeah.
I think I know where this is going.
No. The hotel was a normal hotel. So it wasn't just guys, but my guy roommate and I, both had single beds. My bed, unfortunately, was a straight shot to the door. So in the middle of the night, I woke up in my underwear in the hallway, pulling the door shut. That locks when you pull it shut. And as soon as it locked, I went, oh, God. And I was thinking, what I got to do here,
Wait a minute, you were asleep, though. How did you have all this rationale if you were sleeping?
No, when I woke up in the hallway.
Oh, you woke up in the hall.
As I was pulling the door shut, I realized I was in the hallway in my underwear. And so I kind of tapped on the door kind of lightly because I didn't want anybody else to open their doors. And then I realized that's not going to happen. I mean, my only other choice is go down to the lobby in my underwear to get a key. So I started banging on the door really hard. Finally, my roommate came and opened the door. He goes, "What are you doing?" I said, "I was laying hose." And I just went back and dropped in the bed. He said he laughed for half an hour about that. But that was stressful.
Wow, Keith, thanks for the call. I got to tell you, that happens to me pretty much every time I'm in a hotel. Seth is on the phone. Seth, what's your sleepwalking story?
So let's see. When I was in middle school, went to summer camp like most people do, and happened to find myself. My friends tell me this story. They woke me up at about 2 o'clock in the morning and told me, "Hey, it's time to go to breakfast." Well, mess hall was about a half mile away. I walked all the way there with them behind me, laughing their heads off. And then they told me, "No, it's not time to eat breakfast." Walked all the way back, went right back to sleep. I don't remember a darn thing.
Wow, that's a pretty long. Is this common for you, or is that the only incident?
That is the only one that I'm aware of that I've ever been told. That they just told me, "Oh yeah, we woke you up. You walked halfway there, and then we kept walking you, and you walked all the way to the mess hall without even thinking about it." I was like, I can't believe that happened, but I guess I was hungry at 2 o'clock in the morning. Didn't think anything of it.
With no prior history, is it possible that all those guys were also lying to you?
It's also possible. That is a possibility. I don't doubt that.
Seth, thanks for calling, man. Appreciate it. 314-241-9797. If you have a sleepwalking story, we have just a little bit of time left. 314-241-9797. A couple open lines. Ann from Moscow Mills. Hello, Ann.
Hi, how are you?
So do you have a sleepwalking story?
I do. It's kind of from when I was little. So my dad worked 40 hours driving a concrete truck, and my mom was a stay-at-home mom. And then on the side, he was a farmer. We grew up on a farm, and in the evenings we would all go down and put hay up. And so we'd put 400, 500, 600 bales of hay up in the evening after work. So he was so tired. And this one night, me and my sisters, we all heard this big thump and a bunch of yelling. And it ended up my dad picked my mom up and bucked her out of the bed, and she landed up against the closet door.
I'm waiting to find out who was sleeping.
Yeah, my mom was sleeping. Well, my dad was sleeping too. They both were, but we heard this big boom, and she ended up against the closet doors.
He hay baled her.
Yeah, he hay baled her, all right.
Yeah, Brad, that's what they call that, isn't it?
Tossing hay bales.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And thanks for calling.
Thanks.
All right, just a little bit more time. Let's get to Tyler. Hello, Tyler.
Hey, guys. How you doing today?
Hey, thanks for calling. What's your story?
So, funny one for you. Back when I was in the military, I was in the Navy. I was a master at arms, basically military security. And I had just finished SRFA school, and they put us through a lot of extensive CQ training and mock drills for apprehending suspects. And when I got back home and was in bed with the wife one night, I apparently was going through my house, clearing the entire house. And at some point during that, I was shouting and screaming at an imaginary suspect to get on the ground, put his hands behind his back, the whole nine. Went in for the takedown, only to be woken up by my wife going, "Who are you dealing with?" God, to my recollection, I have no clue who the guy was, but apparently he did something that, I was ready to take this dude down and take him to jail. And to that day, my wife always calls this guy Tom. She goes, "Tom, you better not find Tom in the house again, I swear."
Yeah, maybe you scared him away. Maybe there really was a guy.
You know what? I really hope I did if that was the case.
Hey, was your wife like the suspect in this, or was she just an onlooker?
She just happened to be the passerby, as far as I'm aware.
Okay. So
God forbid I would have went in for a takedown. I probably would have gotten taken down myself.
Tyler, good story. Thanks, man.
Not a problem. You have a good one.
Stacy, you are next on the line. We got just a couple minutes. Stacy, what's your story?
Hi, am I on?
Yeah.
Hey, this isn't about me. This is about my dad.
Okay.
But, he used to have the worst nightmares ever. He would wake up in the middle of the night, running through the house screaming, and he had always dreamt that he swallowed the weirdest things. Sometimes he would swallow broken glass. Sometimes he would swallow tacks. One time he woke up and he said he swallowed an elephant, and it was the most
Well, that's
bizarre
ridiculous.
thing.
So
he would run through the house screaming and gagging, and me and my mom would just look at each other and just laugh. We couldn't help it.
Stacy, so in the middle of the night, you guys would wake up and pop some popcorn and be like, "What? Let's see what Dad swallowed today."
Dad had an elephant last night. Okay.
So he's running around yelling, "I swallowed a tack! Help!" And you guys are like,
oh, I just swallowed a tack. I just swallowed tack.
"What did your dad do for a living?"
He was an engineer.
So he wasn't like eating certain things. Like he wasn't a taste tester
He wasn't a
for Haagen-Dazs or something.
or anything
Okay.
like that, or a fire eater or anything.
Stacy, I think you might have won. That's a great story.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thanks for calling. We got one more. John, boy, there's a lot to compete with. John, you're the last one we got on the line here before we got to take a break. What's your sleepwalking story?
All right. When I was in the Navy, I was in assault crafting, so we stayed in barracks. And I had a roommate. I guess he walked in the room one night and caught me with his shower kit open on his bed, and I was filling it full of pee. And I didn't listen until he screamed at me. He screamed at me. He said, "What the heck you doing?" And I'm like, "I don't know." And so the next day, I had to go buy him all new stuff and clean all his sheets for him, poor guy.
So it wasn't staying in the shower kit.
What was in the shower kit? Like your shaving?
No, it was
stuff and
so you were urinating, but it wasn't staying within the kit. It was kind of all over the bed.
Oh no! It was. I didn't know I was doing it until he yelled at me. It was the weirdest thing. I've never had that happen.
Do you
before,
remember waking up like, "Oh my gosh, what am I doing?" Or,
yeah, it was like, what am I doing? Why am I standing here? And why am I peeing in his shower kit? And he wasn't happy about it.
Well, John, I got to tell you, that's pretty good too. So maybe you were the best. Thanks for calling.
All right, thanks, guys.
Those were some really good stories.
I figured when we started talking about this, I'm like, everybody's got a. Well, most people have a sleepwalking story. It's just a matter of, are they going to be really good ones?
Yeah.
And there's no way to plan ending on the one, where the guy's peeing in his friend's shower kit and the dad who runs around yelling, "I swallowed glass again."
We had a crazy one when I was an RA at Lindenwood. We had a co-ed dorm, and it was like opposite floors, right? So the first and third were guys, and the second and fourth were girls. And we had a guy that was on my floor that ended up accidentally stumbling into one of the girls' rooms. I guess they left their door unlocked, and these girls like, "Who are you?" and start screaming. And then he wakes up, he's in his boxers. He's like, "I don't know how I got here." And then he just kind of walked out.
I'm telling you what, if there's one thing that's going to happen after this segment, it's going to be that there's some guy somewhere who's like, "Oh man, I could say I was sleepwalking," and he's going to do something and go, "Well, I heard on the Annie Frey show."
Don't do that. Don't do that.
All right, let's take a short break. We got one more segment, and then it is the Mark Reardon Show. Annie will be back tomorrow. Stick around for another I don't know if it's going to be a great segment. It might be. Stick around anyway.
Annie's out, Ryan and Brad are in. This is the Mannie Frey Show. Find the podcast, on-demand audio, and more at 971talk.com/Annie.
You're going to the grocery store. Why wouldn't you want to save money? I certainly do. Ruler Foods, you can go online to rulerfoods.com, has savings on the groceries that you love. Red and white seedless grapes right now, $1.69 a pound. Save on that lean ground beef, Kroger lean ground beef. Wonderful item to stock up on at Ruler Foods. Just $3.33 a pound in a 3-pound roll. Sweet 2-pound packs of strawberries, $3.49 each. And do not miss their mix or match hot deals, 2 for $5. Choose from Kroger 24-pack water, Kroger frozen potatoes, 19 to 32 ounces, or 12-count Kroger coffee pods. Save at Ruler Foods, where you can shop smart and spend less. When you shop at Ruler Foods, you're going to save on the items you put in your grocery cart. They have the name brands you love, but those Kroger brands at Ruler Foods prices help you multiply the savings for you, and it gets you coming back again and again. If you haven't found your Ruler Foods yet, you can schedule delivery online or you can put your zip code in at rulerfoods.com.
Men, need a clinic that accepts all insurance, including Medicare? U.S. Men's Medical Center in St. Peters does. U.S. Men's helps men experiencing loss of energy, focus, concentration, and low libido. And they accept all insurance, even Medicare, for testosterone replacement therapy. Patients love the staff and the fact that, yes, I'm going to say it again, they accept all insurance, including Medicare. Feel better? Call U.S. Men's Medical Center at 636-244-5333.
You had a solid retirement dream. Sell your home in a few years, bank the equity, downsize, and travel. But with an unpredictable economy and the future feeling uncertain, you're wondering if that equity will still be there when you're ready. What if you could bank that equity right now? With Truehold, you can sell your home for its current value so you can access your equity today. You can bank the cash now and stay in the home you love with an easy standard lease. Truehold even covers property taxes, insurance, and repairs. And since Truehold hands over your equity in cash now, it's yours to do whatever you like. Don't let a shifting economy put your hard-earned equity at risk. Visit Truehold.com and receive their competitive offer on your home in just 48 hours, based on its best current value, not what's coming. Call 1-855-300-9993 or visit Truehold.com. The smarter, faster way to cash out on your home's value without moving. That's Truehold.com.
If you're looking for the best eye care in St. Louis, look no further than the doctors of Ophthalmology Associates. Doctors Greg Birdie, Ranjan Malhotra, Robert Brusati, and Andrew Royer. Make your appointment today at youridoc.com or call 314-966-5000. Ophthalmology Associates.
Today's YouTube live chat poll. Can California be saved? It's a simple yes or no question, but a lot of you on the chat are weighing in, so we want to hear what everyone else thinks. So if you haven't chatted yet, if you haven't told us why you voted the way you voted, jump on Annie's YouTube page and vote and let us know. We're probably going to talk about this in the next segment, but right now Joe says yes, but it's going to take tough love. No state left behind. It's still America. And then MAGA over here says, no, it can't be saved because regular Americans don't have the courage to act and defend their country. We're essentially done. It's just a matter of time now. And then you've got somebody like Janine. She says, can they? Yes. Do I believe they will? No. So what do you think? Can California be saved? The time is 2:48. This time check is sponsored by Jerry Kelly Heating and Air Conditioning.
It's time for a $98 AC tune-up.
Hey, it's Mark Reardon getting set here on a Tuesday afternoon. The fight over illegal immigration continues. That's the key word, illegal. Gets confused by the Democrats quite a bit. And he's known as Billboard Chris Elston, a hero in some of this trans ideology nonsense, joins us at 3:18.
This is the Annie Frey Show. Follow Annie on X at Annie Frey Show.
I remember hearing this song when I was a kid and thinking, oh man, that's such a cool song. It's about Snoopy. And then finding out a little later, oh, that's not about Snoopy. It's about Sloopy. And it doesn't make any sense. And then I didn't like it. And I've always hated it ever since because it was such a letdown.
Broke your little heart.
Broke my little heart. It's the end of the show. It's like we're going to end on a down note now.
Yeah, a lot of outro music.
Now we're just going to have to talk about being sad for another 5 or 6 minutes. Today's YouTube live chat poll, can California be saved? Brad was reading some of your comments. A lot of really good comments on this. I'll read a couple more. Bill says it can be, but it won't be easy. I think that's everybody's sentiment. Robert says, I voted no. Basically, I feel Newsom is being encouraged to make it hard for California residents to rebuild after the fire so he can get public housing for the illegal immigrants. Just my thoughts. We're spending a lot of money in Illinois on illegal immigrants, too.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that that's a conspiracy. It's just a fact. Bobo says, yes, California can be saved. Anything can be turned around. Will it? Probably not. It'll ultimately burn itself down from one thing or another. Yeah, I don't know. Well, I guess we'll see. And we'll answer this question, too, because I don't think we have. Brad, how do you answer the question, can California be saved?
I might be in the minority here, but I think that it definitely can be, and I think that it's on its way to being saved. And I think what is happening in California is things have to get so bad, so absolutely wretched and awful that people will be like, we got to do something differently because they've been telling us that they're in charge, they've got our best interest at heart, and things aren't good. And so whenever you look at things like the California wildfires, how San Francisco is turned down, now you've got rioting, there's just all sorts of things that are happening that just are making that state, which is a great state, it's a beautiful state, it could be so amazing with just semi-normal governance.
It is a beautiful state. Have you been to California?
Yeah, I've been to San Diego and San Francisco.
Yeah, we just went to LA/San Diego last year. That's the first time I've ever been to that part. We went to Big Sur and Monterey back about 2010 to visit some friends who lived on a military base nearby. We drove through Pebble Beach and stuff. It's just like there's so many iconic things, even outside of LA. Just California just has so many places that are so famous, and it's beautiful, and the climate's great. You wish the best for California, but it's just bad leadership. It's socialism. This is what it looks like, is you just have no idea how money works, basically, and then all these other things that go along with it. My answer to this question, can California be saved, is oddly the same as if I were answering the question, can the budget be balanced? Yes. It's almost going to take a miracle for that to happen, though, because if Doge were to find something random, like, for instance, now that Doge has access to all the Social Security numbers, let's say they find that some exorbitant amount of money is being funneled through a handful of these numbers, and they thought it was safe, and now it's not because they got them, and something like that happens, and you go, oh my gosh, all of a sudden we're going to save $500 billion because they found this one thing. That's the way I think the budget might actually get balanced, because I don't think Congress is going to do it. But if we were to find something random, some random Pentagon thing that's buried in line item 408 that they go, wait a minute, why is there $1 trillion going to these underground cities being built off the Atlantic coast, or something way out of left field were to happen, I'd say, okay, yeah, I think it could. So I'm still a yes. Can California be saved? But it's going to take some crazy event where people go, oh, wow, a revival happens in LA, and just you have people coming to Jesus or something. Like, something big has to happen.
You're looking for the big positive thing to happen.
I am.
I'm saying they're going to have to hit rock bottom and hit it hard.
Yeah, I mean, both could be true, though. You could have both of those things happen at the same time. I just got back from vacation last week. Annie will be back tomorrow, so be sure to tune back in. I think we'll have a fun show tomorrow just because we're all going to be back in the same room. We're all looking forward to it. I was flying, and something happened when I flew back into St. Louis that had never happened to me before. Every single one of my bags got flagged for the side check. They have to come in with like a little pencil thing and poke around through your luggage, or they put on the rubber gloves, and you're like, I'm not really embarrassed by anything in there, but it just feel weird that you're poking around in all my stuff. But all of them got flagged, and I can't remember what half of them were, but I knew that one of them was because I had bought a little thing of honey, but it was that real thick honey that I thought would be considered a solid.
Yeah.
But it wasn't.
Nope,
it was
that's
like
a
the
liquid.
consistency of a candle, is what they said. They said, now if it's a candle, we could maybe pass that through, but since that's technically that real thick honey, you can't. So I blew $15 on that. But I saw this story when I came back. It says TSA agent at Pittsburgh International accused of stealing money from passengers. According to a police report, a passenger left their wallet in a security bin with cash inside of it Wednesday afternoon. And, of course, what do you think's going to happen? I can't believe this doesn't happen more often. Video footage shows a TSA agent taking what appears to be the wallet, removing the money, and then handing the wallet back to the passenger. I don't know if it was right in front of him.
There you go, sir.
Yeah, I'm going to have to check this over on the side. It's going to be a
turns
couple
around.
hours.
You see him sticking it in his pocket as he turns back around.
I don't know, but this guy got arrested for doing this. I am a little surprised that this kind of stuff doesn't happen more often, and maybe it is and we just don't know it. But after going through that experience, I'm like, yes, you can stand right there, and I did. I stood right there while they're going through it. But how often would you not? Or somebody, a kid's running down here, so you got to walk down there. and then they could just take stuff. I'm not
Right,
saying
right.
they would, but they could. And it just seems really easy for that to happen. I'm just surprised I don't see stories like this more often. 1 minute left. Let's get the results to the poll. Can California be saved, Brad?
Well, with 192 votes in, those votes are currently 39% say yes, and 61% of you say no. No, it cannot. There is no hope. It's gone forever.
Well, that's kind of where we're at, isn't it? We're watching it burn, and we're watching all this violence going on in California, and we just can't understand why the leaders would not want to stop that violence. They say they want to, but then any sort of activity in that direction, they block. I guess it's not to be surprised, but 61% of you say California cannot be saved. Brad and I think, are both yeses on this, but we're both kind of like crossing our fingers and saying we hope it can, but it's a mess right now. Thanks for tuning in today, and thanks for being a part of this kooky show called The Mannie Frey Show. Tomorrow it'll be The Annie Frey Show, so come back at noon. Mark Reardon coming up next.
Gonna lose control tonight. What do you want from me? I'm not America's sweetheart.
Do you ever wonder if you've saved enough money to retire? Well, you can find out how you can make your money go a lot further in retirement in a 3-hour adult education class called Retirement Planning 101. Hey, it's Sue Thomas, and this is a one-night class. It's taught by a fiduciary advisor from Financial and Tax Architects. They have decades of financial planning experience, and they hold these at colleges and libraries throughout St. Louis. You will learn about reducing your taxes, maximizing your Social Security income, paying for health care, all of it. And there's no cost. Just bring 3 canned goods for St. Louis Crisis Nursery. Now, there are a handful of openings for the classes this month and next. Just register by calling 314-947-2012. 314-947-2012. It's the Sue Thomas number. 314-947-2012.
We, without hesitation, recommend that anybody work with ThrottleNet. The experience will be as good as it's been